Finals of the League of Legends tournament here for you today. It's going to be an amazing matchup right here between KSC White of Germany, two-time champions, and the newcomers FOI of Croatia. My name is Black Bloxer, and I'm joined today by the brilliant Dry Salad. How you doing, man?
Brilliant. That's a new one. That's good. I'm having a fantastic day. Thank you very much. It's so good to be back here alongside you as well, Bloxer, for the grand finals of UEM series for this year. As you said, two fantastic teams going into this one. Kit, probably the bigger name, probably the favorites heading into the best of 5 series today. But no slouches on the other side, so it'll be fantastic to cast this one alongside you.
No, absolutely. We're going to have a quick look at the calendar right here because it has been a really long tournament for these guys. You can see here all the dates. We've been going since May. It's been a very long time coming. Super exciting. We've also got that grand final of the Valorant coming in as well. Like, we've got so many amazing tournaments all the way through here. And with this one, with the League of Legends finals, these guys have been playing for so long, and it's been amazing. They've had very different ways to get here, though. Kit have had a much nicer time of it on the way through, whereas FOI, they played a lot more games, had a little bit of a harder time. But, you know, if League of Legends isn't your thing, then we do have plenty of other games for you to watch on the University Esports Masters. Let's have a look, though, what these guys are playing for, because it's not just for the bragging rights of winning the tournament, although, you know, that is pretty nice. There is also a €5,500 prize pool with 2,500 available for first place. With 5 players on the team, that is going to be €500 for each of the players. Second prize, you're still getting a very respectable €1,500, but obviously you want to take home that first place prize, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, we've mentioned this before. These are university teams, university players, right? Every little bit towards those savings does actually end up counting quite a bit just for the way that they sustain themselves, for the way that they live. But even aside from all that, I mean, being able to take part in a competition like this, having this on your resume, for those who want to go further with League of Legends, is such a great thing to, you know, say I was a part of this team which went so far in this tournament. And even for those who don't want to take it further, just to have that camaraderie, to have that experience of playing in front of an audience, to have that experience of playing with your friends on a great stage like this, for a cash prize against some of the best semi-pro and amateur players in Europe. It's just a fantastic thing to be a part of as we fly into the bracket to see how these teams actually made their way up into this stage of the tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see right here, this is going to be what we had for the lower bracket. FYI, they managed to win out in that final matchup up against the Polish team PB. Still, PB, they will have walked home with a decent prizing too that you saw previously. Same thing for Steel Crows Red. Something interesting actually about Steel Crows Red to mention is that they are one of the teams that managed to take a game off of FOA during our round robin stage. So, you know, it's been a really great tournament, a ton of teams taking games off of each other, but, you know, it's been a long time coming for all of these teams. FOI getting knocked down into the lower bracket by KSC, so they've played each other before. It was a 2-0 for KSC. We do have an expectation coming into today of which of these teams is stronger, but FOI, they're no slouches, and because they had quite a tough time getting here, they had to play a lot more matches. They know each other really well. They're going to be nice and warmed up, so that may well give you, you know, a little bit of an extra advantage here potentially, as we will take a look here at that upper bracket, and you can see Kit, they didn't really have too much of an issue getting here, did they?
No, absolutely they did not. But one thing that's important to mention, because we will be talking about Kit and FOI a lot today, I just want to focus on some of the teams who may have dropped out earlier in the tournament, just to give them, you know, their flowers. PB, incredible miracle run in that lower bracket after getting knocked out by Kit SC in a game which they didn't even get to play, if you remember.
Yes.
Due to some issues regarding technical side of things, they were knocked out of the upper bracket in that first game, and then went on a miracle 6-0 run before eventually stumbling into FOI, who knocked them out in the 2-0 series. That being said, nobody has taken a game off Kit SC yet in the playoffs so far. So in a best of 5 series, anything can happen. You know, it comes down to basically, can FOI find ways to win in more than one game? I think taking that first game is so important for them, because if Kit SC can get that sort of barrier of having the game 1 victory under their belt, it creates this feeling of like, okay, they can drop a game, they can drop 2 games, and they still feel like they're in control of the series overall. Whereas FOI, the onus is sort of on them to come out swinging, to come out strong, and make something happen in those early games to maybe put some pressure on Kit, maybe make them a bit nervous, make them feel uneasy, and then it's sort of up to them to lose rather than up to them to win.
Exactly. I mean, they are very different teams in a lot of ways. KSC, like you said, they haven't lost a single matchup during the playoffs. They didn't miss a single one during Swiss either. They ended up not playing their first matchup. They got a bye coming in as that top seed. and then they played 5 games there, won all of them, then they got into the playoffs, won a game in the best of ones, and then won with 2 clean 2-0. So they've played a lot less games than FOI, who played all 6 in their first round, and then have had to play a lot of the best of 3s to try to scrape their way through into these finals. They've done it. Like we said, that's a lot of games to be able to play to get used to your teammates. That's always going to be good, but it feels like they're just coming into this one on another level. For them to even lose a single game would be a massive achievement, and we definitely hope that we're going to get to see all 5 games. It's great to watch both of these teams play, but there's definitely an expectation coming into today that KSC, it feels like they are titans. They've already won this tournament twice in a row, didn't actually make it to the tournament last year. It was very surprising to not see them, but their fellow German team, Dr. Boomen Academy, ended up winning last year, so it feels like Germany just kind of on top of this tournament. I'd love to see another nation crowned champions here.
Yeah, and Germany is one of those countries that has invested so much in esports over the past few years. So it's not surprising that, especially at the university level, they have that level of success just with the culture and the way that's built around them. That being said, I do think FOI are in with more of a chance than maybe we've been giving them over the last few weeks or even few months, because they didn't look completely out of the water in that best of 3 series that they played just a month ago. The first game, they were in control for large chunks of it, and I mean, although it never really looked like they were fully in a position to just stomp and close out, they definitely had win cons, and they definitely had moments in the game where it felt like, oh, they're in this one. They're fighting around these objectives, they're winning fights around these objectives. And although Kit eventually choked them out once they got to the later stages, we saw glimpses of what it took for them to actually win the game. Some of that came from mistakes from Kit, which, is easily possible. Nobody's perfect. They're capable of messing up. So it's about capitalizing on those mistakes as well as pushing those advantages in whichever way they physically can to take down those German titans. But I think the sort of air around this tournament in general is that this is Kit's tournament to win or lose right now.
It really is. For them to lose this one, it would feel like a massive upset. Whereas, it's a little bit different, actually, if we're taking a look at the way that FOI are coming in. There's no pressure on them. They're expected to not really take a game in this series, so you have 0 expectations. If you manage to take one, that's a huge swing in momentum, and I think this first game could be very telling. If it's a complete one-sided stomp, maybe we know how this series is going to go, but I don't think that's going to be the case either. I could definitely see a situation where even if they lose, FOI can take Kit the distance, make it so that they really have to work for this first one, and they can play around that as well. Something also to mention, obviously this tournament has been spread out over a very long period of time, but it isn't all being played on the same patch. We are now on the latest patch, 14.13, and so that's going to change the picks that we're likely to see. Previously, we were seeing a lot of these hyperscaling ADCs. There was a lot of Jinx being played. It was kind of the highest priority pickup that we had. Currently, that's not really the case. You're seeing a lot more of the Ezreals in the bottom lane. That's something that's going to be a very high priority pick. And then a lot more of these sort of lethality-ish picks. You can still go hyperscaling if you want it, but more often than not, we're seeing things like the Tristana, the Corki. Those are kind of the high-priority picks that you want to see, and that could be a real change. We don't know how either of these teams like to play on this current patch.
Yeah, obviously changing the crit items was a massive thing for the bot lane, just because you only really need 2 crit items in your build now on some of these champions, rather than having to force your way into those, full 5 to get the 100% crit chance. As well as that, if we look towards the other side of the map on the top lane, Kale is in a very good spot right now, and I know that there's some Kale enjoyers, not only on the broadcast production side, but also within these players. So I think this could be a high priority pick. Might be seeing it bend out in the early stage game. But to go back to your point, I definitely think the bot lane centers a lot more around those sort of heavy damage champions rather than hyper carries that we've been seeing for the last few years, which is a breath of fresh air. I do still think there's some power to be had with especially Jinx and Zeri. I think are the 2 best sort of hyper carry centric champions right now. If you're looking at the pro scene, obviously in solo queue you can argue whatever you want about Kog'Maw on Twitch and all these things, but I think 4 of the 5v5 competitive Zeri and Jinx are still in a good spot just because they're so good at utilizing fleet footwork, and Jinx can also use PTA in some instances. But aside from that, I'd be surprised if we see those sort of being given too much priority. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of, like you said, the Corkis, the Tristanas, even Draven now, even though Draven tends to be only picked by people who are very confident on Draven. The champion is in a spot now where I think you can kind of just pilot him well enough to the point where you can snowball those first 2-3 items and then just completely dumpster the game. But that also does mean that the support pairings tend to be a lot more volatile. We're seeing a lot more engage. We're seeing a lot more melee, like the Leona, like the Rel, sort of coming back into fashion, the Nautilus, the Thresh, because you need that easy setup for these champions to be able to get their one-shot combos off funnel those leads and become these sort of one-shot hyper carries, these glass cannon hyper carries, rather than scaling hyper carries.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I saw Janna yesterday.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that? What? I didn't know that we had enchanters in the current meta, and to be honest, we really don't. It has just been engaged champions all the way through. It's also bringing the Kai'Sa up a lot into these sort of dive-heavy compositions. You really like to pair up the Kai'Sa alongside the Tristana in the mid lane because you get sort of the best of both worlds, the hyperscaling as well as that early aggression down in the bottom lane. That being said, Redeemed, the ADC for KSC, does not really play any of these things. I mean, during the playoffs that we saw, played the Ashe, played the Varus, and that's basically it. Now, Ashe is still sort of floating around, can be picked up. It works, but it's not as strong as it was before. It is definitely not one of those high priority pickups that we've been seeing. Kind of the same thing with the Varus, where you can play it can work, but because Varus, I think often in a lot of these compositions works best as the lethality version, and that's not the strongest version of him at the moment. He's been dropping off a little bit as well. I'm not saying that Redeemed can't play other things, is an incredibly talented player, but, you know, it's just a little bit different, and it will be interesting to see what these guys actually decide to go towards. You know, do you have to completely change the way you want to play? I don't think Star is going to have to, because they have been playing a lot more of these more aggressive pickups. Really enjoyed playing the Callista as well, and that is something that, although I haven't been seeing quite as much because I think it's more of a niche pick, is pretty strong at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And just to go back to the point you mentioned about the Varus as well, with the way that they changed his W, obviously losing the attack speed passive from killing units just means that he needs to build attack speed in his actual core items, which makes it a lot harder to funnel into that lethality side of things. I will also be expecting to see some Ezreal priority coming out, maybe from either side, just because of how strong the champion is and how much he offers in terms of, you know, weak side priority and allowing you to play through the top lane. So, you know, you can pick Ezreal in the bot lane and maybe look towards that Kayle strong side to make sure that she's getting free scaling, make sure you're keeping her alive and just sort of scale throughout the game. So our first bans coming in now, the Tristana Hui coming out from Kit, as well as the Kindred and Karthus. So a lot of scaling, two very, very powerful scaling junglers knocked out already on the side of Kit, whereas Foy focusing more on sort of knocking out these mid lane priority selections, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like the Tristana right now is a pick ban, and especially on red side, you have to get rid of it, because giving it over as that first pickup to Igneous as well would be just incredibly unfortunate. Giving that one over, just, it does not work out. You want to be getting rid of that as quickly as possible. It can just completely take over a game. We are going to see the Jinx taken off the board. That's a bit of an interesting one. Like we've been saying, not exactly the strongest at the moment. Now, that Corki is available as one of those priority first pickups if you want to go towards that. At the same time, though, you can change things around a little bit if you want to, as FYI. I mean, I have seen the Zeres picked up relatively often recently, and it is going to be grabbed here. Now, it's very volatile, you know. If Sitar's able to make it work, if you're able to pair it up very aggressively and just go all in constantly, then you can get the Zeri going. But at the same time, because she has the ability to miss her autos, is a very volatile pickup in that bottom lane.
Definitely, and I think one of the main sort of strengths and weaknesses of the Zeri right now is her scaling. She, on one item and two items, can be very, very, very weak and very slow to get into the game because of the way she builds right now. See the Kai'Sa coming out, so they will be trying to neutralize that scaling threat, it seems, by just locking in Kai'Sa, assumedly with an engaged support, something like the Nautilus, like the Rel. But once she hits three items, she can completely take over the game. The problem is getting to that stage of the game, because what most people build now is they'll go static Shiv, and then a crit item, and then she's Zyra, probably coming out for that jungle pick.
Yep.
Could be flexed, but I don't think it's going to be alongside the Kai'Sa. I think it will be in the jungle. We've seen some nasty Zyra clears, 2-minute 40 full clears, which can get a little bit freaky, but does give you a lot of prio over that jungle end.
It really does. I mean, I saw one yesterday, and it was disgusting. It was, I think, 6-0-1 in the first 5-6 minutes, and just wrecking everything in front of you. The other side of it is going to be that Brand often hitting the ban table recently, and we really are seeing these AP junglers, and it really unlocks you into the middle lane. Obviously, you would like to pair it up a lot of the time with something like the Tristana or the Corki, because you then need to balance out the amount of AP threat that you have on your team. with that band away, the Corki kind of remains as that possible priority. I really like the Leona pickup. It's kind of the best of the engaged supports at the moment. Does always have a bit of a threat with the Alistair available. Can stop a lot of what the Leona wants to do, although you do win out during the first couple of levels, and your engage is a little bit less full committal. Instead, going to be the Rel. Both of these supports are going to be in a situation where you don't really want to be the first person to initiate the engage, but once you do, if it works, if you manage to get a good land, it should be huge. I think I'm going to favour on towards Gentleman Heroes, towards Redeems, Kaiser, and Matthew with the Rel, just because that's a slightly stronger 2v2, but we've got very similar on both sides of this draft right now. You know, we've got the bot lanes locked in, we've got what we expect to be the junglers locked in, bar something crazy happening, so you're really looking to get yourself some proper engage tools as well to put into that jungle and into that mid and that top lane, because you need to be able to protect these carries.
Yeah, definitely. I think just to second what you said about the engage as well, I think the good thing about the Leona here is that when the Rel engages onto your Zeri, it's very easy for you to just lock down the Kai'Sa and make sure your ADC stays safe. So there's sort of this stalemate that happens when both supports go in, and it's like, okay, which support ends up doing more damage in the initial engage, which then allows the ADCs to follow up in the next few seconds. We see Nefiri and Camille bans coming out in the second rotation. Here, that Nefiri feels a little bit targeted as that assassin pick. I think it's a good ban because they need some more reliable AD damage right now. So I think having an assassin in the mid lane is one of the easiest ways to get through that. Obviously, bruisers in the top lane can be very strong right now as well. We see the Camille ban coming out on that side, but right now neither team really has committed to an exact style with how they're playing their comps yet. So they're just trying to sort of put out feelers here to see, like, okay, we need to ban out these really strong champions which can take over the game with like these really hard AD carries, these really hard assassins, and we see two very hard top lane carries versus two very hard mid lane carries banned out on either side to make sure they can't really get those volatile picks.
Ooh, I mean, we were talking about needing a little bit of AD into either your mid lane or your top lane. Either the Jace or the Yasuo would give you a lot of that potentially. See which way they want to go, or if there's a completely different direction. Maybe Polarizing wants to get real high if he wants to pull out something like the Zed. No, indeed, it is going to be this Jace lock-in. It gives you some extra poke range, which is going to be pretty huge at this point out of kit. They've got so much range before you get involved in these fights, and it can be very tricky to try to walk into a fight like this, especially when you don't have somebody as tanky who can just step up. It's going to be the lock-in of the Irelia. And if you do want to take this Malphite right here, I could understand why. You get a little bit of engage from a long distance from Ziak, and then you can just go all in with that Malphite, pair it up alongside a Brand ulti, and that's a great way to win yourself a fight. Now they're going to pivot, and that's a risk right there. I mean, you do have targets to try to blow up. Even the Jace is potentially one-shottable for a LeBlanc, but at the same time, you have to execute that perfectly, otherwise a LeBlanc that falls behind doesn't give you too much in any of your fights.
Yeah, and the AD LeBlanc as well, not as strong as it used to be, so probably will just be focusing on getting that one-shot, AP assassin style LeBlanc. What I will say that I like about Kit's draft right now is that, we're getting a Chinese top lane matchup, it seems. Okay, this can be fun to watch. The Irelia into the Fiora most likely is going to be incredibly volatile, incredibly fun to watch, especially once they hit level 6. I see some flashy 1v1s happening up there. Gentleman Hero and Marzai getting to flex their muscles a little bit. I was just going to say as well, what I do like about this draft from Kit is that Redeemed can build AP if need be, just to get sort of more poke into his kit if he wants to play more alongside the Jace. Because right now they sort of have the Jace and the Zyra for range, but there's a bit of a mismatch there in the range, and if the Zyra is not poking, then the Jace is kind of the only poke, and you wonder whether he has enough in himself to be able to knock out all of these picks. So there just needs to be more of a balance. I think Kai'Sa going more of an on-hit build that has Nashor's Tooth built in could be quite good here. Burns through the Leona. The other 4 champions are pretty squishy in general, so she won't really need to build the lethality style Kai'Sa. She won't really need to build full on it. She can sort of slide an AP item in there to make sure she gets a little bit of poke alongside that as well. But I don't think either team had really a ridiculous advantage in the draft overall from what I was seeing. I think both teams drafted to their styles and to what they wanted before, as we were discussing before the draft even started. One thing I do really want to focus on is if this Kai'Sa Rel lane can neutralize the Zeri, because if not, it can be very, very hard for Kai'Sa to play into. The range difference in late game team fights can just be absolutely impossible to play.
It really can be. I mean, if you are able to get this Zeri through the early laning phase, there's not a massive threat, then you're going to be okay. But at the same time, the Kai'Sa and the Rel, they just have so much more early on. We'll have to see, though, as we are going to jump on into our first game of these grand finals. FOI up against Kit. Will Kit be able to get 3 wins? So we are going to jump straight on into a pause. That's a very... you know what? I was going to say that's a very UEM way of starting this off. No, this is a very recent league way of starting things off. Every time we get hyped, things are going to come back down. That's fine, though. I've still got more stuff to talk about, specifically in this top lane matchup. The last time that we saw Gentleman Hero on the Fiora, it was actually his worst game of the playoffs. That being said, they still absolutely dominated, were doing just fine. It was into a Malphite was the only thing, and so wasn't able to get as much of an advantage going early on as you would have liked. But that's not the case in this matchup, right? You're up against an Aurelia. It's a very spicy matchup at the top lane, but Gentleman Hero is just so strong individually. Absolutely loves to scrap and brawl and get things going. I mean, you've got the Zungle as well. She's pretty good on the early ganks. I could see Striker putting a lot of tension up into this top lane rather than into this bot lane potentially. Or maybe Gentleman Hero could just take over this matchup individually, because it is so volatile and we just know what Gentleman Hero can do. It makes me a little bit nervous perhaps for my Xayah in this top lane.
Definitely, and I think the main thing to focus on, specifically with that, just in a flat 1v1 scenario, Fiora tends to win at most stages of the game. Yes, there are certain skill checks that you have to sort of get through, but in a side lane, Fiora will win, just because of her sort of inbuilt healing, which Irelia doesn't have as much natural access to. You know, if Irelia misses an E or gets it parried or whatever, Fiora will just naturally win that fight, especially with her ult available, proccing all those vitals. Fiora just is a better split pusher, and also can impact team fights very well, whereas Irelia tends to be slightly easier to team fight with, but is a lot weaker in the side lane. So it'll be interesting to see how they sort of pilot these champions. That being said as well, Brand currently starting around the top side on that blue buff, Zyra same. So the paths, unless they choose to jungle a bit more vertically, will end up crossing. The Zyra, I think, has a slightly faster clear if you play it correctly. She will land on that top side, possibly on a timer where the Irelia has pushed up, because Irelia, level 1, 2, 3, is able to push out the Fiora, meaning the Zyra can maybe capitalize on that, and from that point on, the Fiora will just win. On the other side of things, Brand now moving down to actually match that, maybe? Gliding around, slipping and sliding. It looks like he will be starting red as well, so could actually meet them up there. Obviously, his level 3 can be incredibly strong if he wants to impact that top lane 2v2. Both junglers starting leashless as well, just because of how strong AP junglers are right now. Ridiculous champions, Bloxer.
They really are. I mean, we've seen so many AP junglers, a lot of Karthuses slamming onto the Rift recently as well. You get that kind of 3 items and you're just nuking people from on high. It is kind of insane to watch sometimes. That's obviously not going to be the case in this game. Still though, the Brand, if you can get into a big team fight situation where you manage to hit that ult and it just lands onto everybody, absolutely terrifying, right? Not the way that you want to start off your day. I think that the Zungle just gives you a little bit more, though, at this point. You just get to do so much more, especially with that stun. It's a little bit easier to hit, potentially, than the Brand stun, and then you can just murder people with the plants, even if you die. There's obviously going to be a lot of burn damage coming down from both of these teams as well.
Yeah.
But this is not standard League of Legends we've got right here. This is a pretty wild way of doing things. Like you said, the Fiora likes to split push, and then the rest of the composition has a lot of poke out of Kit. So they don't necessarily need to worry so much about not having their Fiora involved in these teamfights, as we are actually just going to see...
Blanc. Full engagement will flash forward in an auto to finish off the first blood. Igneous there, without Ignite, able to pick up a solo kill. Was forced to use the flash. I'm not sure it was actually necessary. I think he could have got in range before the route expired, but just wanted to make sure he confirmed that before Polarizing could flash out. As you see, full engage happening in the bot side. Zeri getting really low here, flashing forward to try and pick up the kill as the stun comes down. That's one kill going over. The Rel should trade back, and the supports will probably just waddle away from each other now. A trade of kills, but one on the ADC versus one on the Rel, and Leona not giving up on this one yet. So they will just walk away from each other. Zeke making sure that he is able to find the stun onto Redeemed. See Fiora now just trying to get a little bit of damage out. Doesn't want the relative free from on the tower. They have the 2v1 onto the Brand now in his jungle. Forced to flash away from his own Gromp. Kit taking the game into their hands here. Losing out a little bit on the bot side fight, as well as that first blood in the mid lane. Jace able to pick up at least a CS lead on the back side of that. And stabilizing things around the top side of the map. So they do have a lead in the top and the jungle, as well as the bot lane being pretty even still, despite that first blood going over to the LeBlanc.
Yeah, indeed. It's a really interesting way for this game to have started out. I was worried about this LeBlanc, but the fact that you managed to get that first kill can accelerate your save into that game. I really like that for them, as well as this bot lane you would usually expect for the Kai'Sa and the Rel to win out on this 2v2. Obviously, Leona is kind of miserable to play against early on, but the Rel can do the same sort of thing. Kai'Sa should just doing a little bit more damage, so the fact that you lose that in the 2v2 is going to be pretty impactful. You managed to get back to base with relatively even items is the only thing, as we are going to see another engage right here. The Brand doesn't have a flash.
Yeah, no flash available on Faust here. The Rel will land pretty much all that she needs to as the Zyra picks up that kill. Striker getting himself onto the board, up 3 camps as well. They were able, as they were unable to steal away that crab, but picking up the kill will slow down that Brand so much. He hasn't even completed a full clear yet, obviously, because he didn't get that Grump. Didn't get the Krugs either.
No, it's really not a fun time so far for Faust. And this is sort of the way that Kit play. Sure, individually, they're very good and very strong, but beyond that, they are just so very good at rotating around the map and getting to team fights first with more members, knowing when to pick the right kind of fights as well. And individually in lanes, even if it's not in the straight up 1v1 getting solo kills, still are just going to be able to get themselves some great leads. You can see there's constantly a massive mini wave being shoved under the tower for Marziah. Gentleman Hero hanging around is just going to be able to jump forwards. Proc a Vital does a ton of damage. Is going to be able to push this wave in once again and hasn't even base. Neither of these two has. And so you can just keep this pressure up. You can see the CS lead is forming about a 10 CS lead, which isn't huge in the grand scheme of things, but at this point in the game, when you've got one in the top lane, when you've got one in the jungle, when you've got one in the mid lane as well, you just begin to get those small advantages, and it's the sort of team where, you know, you're chilling, things look relatively even, you check the gold lead, there's a 3,000 gold lead, and you're like, where? What? Where did that come from? And it's just these little advantages that Kit are so good at getting for themselves. However, there is a bit of a CS lead in the bottom line for Sitar, and so that is somewhere you can try to play around. Yeah,
definitely. As we see, trade of damage here coming out. Igneous playing that extremely well to dodge the damage from the Jace melee Q, as well as that W coming out, so massive trade of HP here. Will be knocking that Jace down to about half, keeping 2/3 of his own health bar. That being said, the CS lead that's building in the bot lane right now is very big, but if that's the only lead that you have on the map, this area will just get collapsed on so easily and knocked out of the game. We need to see something happen around the other sides of the map right now so that they can funnel themselves back into this one. A 1v1 happening up here. The ult does come down. The Grand challenges. The Zyra route will be flashed away from by Marziah.
Look at Gentleman Hero's items. Okay.
I mean, it's damage, right? It's good for the 1v1. You have input
is.
Healing. You don't need that Vamp Scepter this early in the game. The Aurelia going for more of an attack speed build just means you will always out-damage her in these sort of short trades, and she's never ordering you enough to make use of that recurve bow, right? So you are just that much stronger right now. You have the pressure of the Zyra top lane right now. That being said, they did lose the grubs on the back side of this because Brand was just sneaking them away. Igneous on the mid lane, getting a second solo kill, however, just while we were talking about all of that. So polarizing, even with the no magic mantle in his inventory, getting caught out twice here now. LeBlanc is becoming a little bit of a problem, but Marziah falls in the top lane fight. The Zyra did stick around a little bit longer just to make sure they secured that one. The bot lane will be happy to just pick up this wave. Probably looking at a base soon for this area.
This is the thing, right, with the Zyra compared to the Brand, is you just gank better than the Brand does. The Brand really just wants to sit in the jungle, farm up until you hit level 6, and then get involved in the game a little bit more from that point onwards. It's very different for the Zyra, who certainly can just sit and clear. Like you said, the clear speed is truly disgusting. But beyond that, your ganks are also very effective, and it's just such a hard game to play if you are this Brand, when the Zyra is just everywhere. And I was wondering, you know, is Striker going to go towards the top side? Are they going to go towards the bottom side? Has sort of hard committed to helping out in that top lane. We can now also see that Tiamat coming in, and so this top lane is just going to get harder and harder to play out for Marziah. We have unfortunately had to jump into a little bit of a technical pause. We will hopefully be getting back into the game very soon, but I still think this is a pretty interesting point of the game in which to be able to pause and take stock of things, because we're pretty early on, but we can already see some sort of gaps opening up. Top lane is very much in Kit's favor, but the mid lane is going the complete opposite way.
Yeah, the mid lane, that LeBlanc picking up 2 solo kills is so massive, because that is a lane that can sort of slip out of your control if you're playing the mage there. The Jace is, in some cases, able to just sort of stall out, get to the stage where you can't really reach him, can't really do much, and then becomes this one-shot assassin from 30 million miles away. On the other side of things, the bot lane, with that Zeri getting a slow lead as well, they do have some win cons opening up now, FOI. What I will say is if the Fiora becomes too much of a problem, she can take this ball into her own hands and sort of solo stall out the game for the rest of her team to get back into things. As we mentioned before, she is such a strong side lane champion. There is no one who can really match her. If the Irelia is far enough behind, they'll have to send 2 people, and even if they send 2 people, the Fiora can still win out in those scenarios and, you know, still find push and still find the 1v2s and all these things. And if you're committing too many people, then you end up losing too much on the rest of the map. And the brand being down this much CS as well means that the Zyra should have priority over all these objectives and all these lane positions.
Absolutely, but it is a situation where sideline threat also, I think, includes a LeBlanc. Can sit very easily in a side lane, is always able to escape, and so that could be a potential avenue to try to counter out what Gentleman Hero is doing. We are going to see a little bit of a posturing, perhaps, around this. Ocean Drake is going to be picked up relatively easily by Kit. They are in a pretty strong advantage in the jungle position, and that's sort of what you need to be able to get yourself onto this Drake. Also, with the push in the bottom lane, meant that the bot was able to get over quicker for Germany. They're going to be able to pick this one up nice and easily. And I mean, the way that this early game has gone, it doesn't feel as dominant for Kit as we were expecting. Sure, they've got themselves a little bit of an advantage, but it's nowhere near as much as could possibly have happened. The fact that Polarizing is not having the best time early on, I think is very surprising. They're a great player, but Igneous is showing, oh boy, what they can do. Striker lives though, it's fine, it's fine.
Yeah, Igneous really wants to be the star of the show here. You see, Brand with Faust coming in just to escort him to safety. The chain does go wild and knocked up here in the root. The stun will miss from the Brand as well. Ult coming down, bouncing off the Raptors once, twice, 3 times. But the burn won't be enough to pick up any kills. Fiora coming down as the wave has already shoved, but don't think there's anything left here for Gentleman Hero, who will just start basing. Maybe look to
no, they're going in,
they're flashing forward. Q does Procopile and gets Igneous. That is huge, slowing down the pressure that the LeBlanc has been building up so far. Jace will TP into the top lane to catch that wave. Fiora will take over the mid lane for now, and that is absolutely massive. They've slowed down the pressure that LeBlanc had. They didn't allow Irelia to do anything too crazy on the top side. This Fiora is now up 34 CS and 2 kills, has the Hydra already finished, and is waddling back into the top lane to claim the spoils of war.
I mean, oh boy, right? You do not want to see that. When you've got the matchup right here between the Fiora, Super Fed, and the LeBlanc, I was thinking maybe, you know, Fiora is terrifying to try to run away from. If you've ever tried to run away from a Fiora, you know it's a miserable time, about as bad as being chased by a Vayne. But it's a LeBlanc, super mobile, you know, has that clone as well, so it can be pretty slippery. Apparently, if you're able to just use the flash right there, as Gentleman Hero does, pick up that kill, it's very, very worrying, and I think we've all experienced it, right? The map's going good for your team, the enemy Fioras kind of fed, or, you know, whatever split pusher top lane's kind of fed, and sure, you win every team fight, but every team fight you go for, I've lost a tower, I've lost an inhibitor, they're on my Nexus, what do I do about it, how do I play around this? So I'm expecting FOI to have a little bit better coordination than we're all going to have in our solo queue games, but it still makes these team fights really tricky, and it's really hard to think too much about what's happening on the rest of the map when the Fiora is so big, when the Fiora is as terrifying as it is right now.
Yeah, the problem is they don't necessarily automatically win the 4v4 either. Like, even if the Fiora and the Irelia are alone in the side lane, and you're thinking, okay, the Fiora's not here, we have a bit of a lead, it's still not an automatic team fight, right? You're still not that far ahead to where you're just completely dumbstring. You still have a Kai'Sa Rel engage, you still have Zyra and Jace able to put out massive AoE damage in these fights. Obviously, Jace does need to start getting those items on board, but at least picking up a quite substantial CS lead now will negate a little bit of that deficit from those 2 kills. The Fiora in an absolutely fantastic position, obviously. The Zyra up 20 CS and a kill. And the bot lane, although behind, stable. Not completely out of control. The Zeri is just a little bit ahead. And obviously buying those boots does mean that her first item won't be that accelerated anyway.
Yeah, it's sort of pushing you back a little bit for the point where you're getting to those beginning power spikes. Faust is going to hang around in the area, spite away onto the Scuttle Crab. It gets a little bit of vision for the team potentially, but you're definitely going to prefer the trade right here. For Striker going to be able to pick up all of these grubbies, and that is going to be a nice injection of gold. Gentleman Hero takes a good chunk of damage off of Forced right there, but I don't necessarily know that that is going to be enough to dissuade this take of the grubs. Indeed, it is not. Striker going to be able to get away with all 3 of those, but we could see a gank into the top lane.
Yeah, the Fiora going in here. The Zyra not in a position to really impact this one just yet, so having to stall out a little bit, going into the alcove to buy some time. They need to pull the trigger right now, because if the Zyra is able to get here, this should be a pretty simple 2v2. Gentleman Hero moving left, right. W does drop, doesn't block any CC, is taken pretty low, doesn't have the Grand Challenge available, but one vital proc. The shutdown does come through eventually. These plants
I think Striker wins this.
Has to run away to the wave to try and get some healing back, but the Leandri's ticking away. The Q will hit, and it's a double kill for Striker, although the shutdown does come in for the Aurelia, giving him a little bit of respite. Striker will be able to shove in this wave, and I think overall you will still take that if you're Kit. Bot lane slithering away as they now hold on to a 2k gold lead overall. 3 grubs apiece for these two teams, so no mines will be spawning, and Drake advantage the wave Kit.
I mean, this is just a complete disaster earlier on out of FY. Getting that kill onto Gentleman Hero is definitely something, like I said. So shutdown going over to Marzaya. You managed to pick up the Bork. Good, lovely. We are happy about that at least, but this is still just such a terrifying game if you are FOI, because you have given over so many kills, not just to the Fiora top lane, but I think finally we can start talking about other people, and that other person is going to be Striker. I mean, the Zyra jungle, when it gets ahead, is just miserable to play against. You saw there were a couple of those abilities being missed out of Striker, but it just doesn't matter, because the plants are what's actually doing the damage. You've got the Leandri's completed, the burn is just miserable to try to play against, and especially in skirmishes, that's where this Zyra can really pop off. I think in a straight up massive 5v5, that's where the brand can really show up. That's where the brand is at its best, where that ult can be spreading between everybody, you know, bouncing off of everybody, get 1,000,001 procs off of it. But in these little skirmishes where there's less people to try to bounce it off of, those plants, their focus is less split, and it can just do so much. So at least in the early game, Striker is going to be in a bit of advantage, and you can see that from how this early has gone. 300 gold though on the shutdown means that if you can get a kill onto this Zyra, especially onto one of your priority targets, maybe mid lane, maybe top lane, especially onto Sitar in this bot lane, then that will be a massive injection of gold and a way to sort of try to even this one up.
Definitely, but I mean, the Zyra is so impactful. Has the boots finished and has the sorcery tree move speed as well. As we see the solar flare coming down, will just about go wide, landing the slow part at least. Striker in this bush, they should be aware that they're in the area. Root will just go wide, so no kills being traded here. And solar flare down does mean a very large ult will be missing. They do still have the brand ult available for that extra AoE. Jace does have the push in mid lane though, so we'll be able to move down here faster if they do want to fight around this Chemtech Dragon. Root goes wide yet again. You're just trying to find a way to engage on this Rel. Q missing. Thought they might go for a flash there to try and force that one to land, but it seems like this fight will peter out for now. They'll look for one more shove before re-engaging around this Drake. LeBlanc was able to get a base off, so it does finish those Sorcerer Shoes to negate a bit of that magic resist in the Merc Treads, in the Hex Drinker as well. And they will now move up to the Dragon. Brand starting his recall up, but not looking to complete this one. The LeBlanc will get that wave, and they'll have to try and find a way into this pit. I'm not sure what the angle is here. The Solar Flare is actually slowly coming back available if they can hold this out really long. Marzaya standing under his tower, looking for his TP board, does find its way in. The Zeri is able to actually last hit the dragon. Both TPs coming from top laners. The Fiora and Aurelia able to impact this one, but the Zyra goes down very quickly. There's a lot of damage gone out of this fight on the backside. Zeri trying to auto her way through this one, getting all those stacks on the passive. Maybe a bit too close in melee range. Zeri still alive, redeemable, just about pick her off on the backside. Faust and Zeke in a very close 2v2. Matthew lands the stun. The Solar Flare is able to come down, and the brand Q picking one more off. So what started out looking a little bit dangerous for Foy ends up in their favor. It is a 3-for-4 and picking up the dragon. This Jace is 0-3 now in this game. The Fiora was not able to do as much as he hoped. The Zyra got one shot on the backside of the fight, so another shot down their way. They are still down just about 2,000 gold, but they've negated the threat of that early soul. They're moving up back to push these waves out. They picked up some shutdown gold. They're slowing the game down a little bit more to allow the Zeri and Brand to scale. So this was a massive fight for them.
It really was. That's exactly what you needed out of FOI, and I think part of the issue was that a lot of these big ultis went wide, and then the fight was incredibly split. Striker's ult, I mean, it looked like the Dragon Forms was right on top of everybody, but it just doesn't land onto anybody. Everybody's able to just split off, and it drags everybody from Kit into different directions. Redeemed ends up in the pit, sort of running around, is able to survive that one, the only member to survive, as the teleport is going to come in right here. This could be a bad situation.
Absolutely, the TP coming down now. Igneous getting stunned up a bit, was able to find at least one of the chains, and the damage coming out from the proc of the QW means that Zeri's allowed to just pick that one up with the execute from that zap. So should now complete, and a second kill into the back pocket of the Zeri. This Kai'Sa in a bit of a dangerous spot, but with the mid laner moving away, the Solar Flare going wide as well. We'll be able to just pick up the wave. Has Striker there available to back her up just in case. The game just slowly inching back into FOI's favor. This mid-game pressure that they're able to establish has gone massively their way. It seems like none of the teams really care too much about this Herald. Obviously, both only having 3 grubs means that won't really give them too much anyway.
Yeah, it's not going to be the sort of thing that you have to go play around right here, as we are going to jump into a little bit of a replay of this skirmish we saw in the bottom side, and it's just the amount of damage that you're able to get through was kind of insane, actually. Actually, while we were in that replay, we end up missing out. Sitar is going to die in the bottom side. That tower in the bot lane is likely also going to fall, as we do watch the top lane, and I don't think there's going to be too much of a gank opportunity necessarily. Actually, as Gentleman Hero keeps on stepping quite far forwards, despite the fact they have the ward, could end up stepping too far forwards if they are not careful. Hit going to respond and pick themselves up another one of these towers. They have managed to pull the gold lead back into a pretty big advantage. Forced going to get forced away from this Herald. And yeah, like you said, this game inched back into the favour a little bit of FOI, but it's once again Kit managing to find a couple of advantages for themselves. Gentleman Hero pushing quite far forwards, doing so safely enough. Forced is sort of sticking around in the area, but I'm not sure if they're going to step too far forwards. I mean, knowing Gentleman Hero, they might well go for the dive.
Even has that the Marshall available, is going for the Q immediately. Grand Challenge does come down, stun not landing, but does get the parry at least. Will be traded back 1-for-1. Faust on a rampage now, 4 kills back to back after his early deaths. Matthew and Striker just sitting around here looking if there's anything that they can do. LeBlanc slowly inching up as well, but in a 2v3 they might lose this one. Doubling out to safety, does have the Mimic available, so we'll just dash out. Not much more to be had here, but yeah, losing 2 towers, the mid lane and bot lane tower, as well as the Zeri dying in a 1v1 that quickly does hurt, and it looks like they're going to pick up a little bit more than they even thought they were going to get here. Redeemed with a second kill in such short succession, is on 4 now after back-to-back fights. Massive shutdown on him, and they're entering the stage of the game where this Kai'Sa could start to take over. This Zeri, with nothing but a static and soon a Runans, just won't have that damage needed for these team fights, so that 2-item Kai'Sa will be absolutely monstrous. If they can get that rel engage, the Zyra with the Rylai's on her ultimate as well with the Leandri just means these champions are impossible to get away from as Polarizing goes in and just completely one-shot into the block, but not quite enough yet. Taking his W's out to safety, needs to get this EQ down, might have the Mimic available. Oh, he knew she was going to jump back.
Oh, that's nicely played.
Yeah, just tried to play the mind games there. Knew that the EQ was going to come out eventually, so he thought, maybe I have a chance if I jump back, but there was vision, there was a ward, so Polarizing saw Icanius take that one back. Finally, a solo kill back the way of the Jace to make up for that early lane phase. Says, listen, you had your fun. I've got all my MR now. I've got my one-shot capabilities, but that damage that came through was absolutely insane out of nowhere.
It really was, and that's the thing with the Jace. Sure, you managed to put him down in the early game, but at the same time, you know, you managed to get yourself an early completion onto the opportunity, and from that point on, yeah, you're just going to do so much. First is going to try chase onto Polarizing, but now going to be collapsed upon. Matthew is in the area. There are friends on the way, so Forst isn't going to be alone. Depends on how quickly they die. Good flash to avoid that magnet storm.
The Kai'Sa flying in, landing all the ultimate he needs to. The Soul Flare comes down,
damage
the wave, but flashing into 2 procs of the brand passive, instantly nuking. Huge shutdown on the Faust. Yet again, TP coming in here from Marzaya is able to stack her Q off those plants. Sitar picking up a kill onto Matthew, who tried to slow down the advance. Looks like they will just have enough to get away here. Maybe not, actually, as Marzaya does get a double Q onto the wave. Very, very slowly. Does land on the Polarizing the ult as well, but that flash will give enough distance to keep them safe. On the backside of all of this, though, Gentleman Hero opening that mid lane, taking the tier 2. Guys, the LeBlanc is still there. Picks up 1. Striker going very low. Dodging back away with the Mimic to get away from
look at mid lane
those great reaching plants. The tier 3 drops in the mid lane as Gentleman Hero decides, listen guys, this fight is not going our way. We need to make something happen. So the map is completely blown open. They do get a few shutdowns, but they are still down 5,000 gold. Striker in a bit of a dangerous spot here. Doesn't know Icanius is behind, but does have quite a bit of HP. Will survive that initial engage. Icanius forced to flash away, but might still die to that burn.
Might burn.
As well as the plant tick. Burn does expire. Redeemed. No flash available. And the flash W away from The LeBlanc will just keep her alive, but has no way to get back into this fight. The Rel can't get into the Drake pit either, so they will pick up a mountain. At the very least, Fiora still pushing on her lonesome, isolated in those side lanes. Igneous will have to base before he's even allowed to TP to this top wave. So the Fiora, if she's quick enough, might be able to pick up another tower for herself. No, TP does come down. But Fiora getting so much here. I mean, those two towers in the mid lane, getting that inhib turret, forcing that way in the top lane to force the TP as well. There's no way for you to force this bot tower. They might just have enough damage. I think
nah, they're not going to be able to step up. You don't want to try to dive underneath when polarizing is there. Does so much damage. We got to see that earlier on. You've got those 2 completed items as well. The more is going to come through. You really don't want to just over-aggress right there onto the Jace. And that's the thing, right? This is what the Fiora does. 3 completed items, also got that Hull Breaker. Obviously, Hull Breaker doesn't mean you have to stay away from the rest of your team anymore, but it's a Fiora, it's a Gentleman Hero Fiora. Beyond that, that's likely what you're going to want to do. It just means that every time you step up as FOI, you are not going to have a good time in terms of towers. You kind of have to rotate Marziah around to these team fights. We've seen Marziah now proc the TPs basically... proc the TPs basically on cooldown in order to try to help out the team. You need all 5 members to come and fight Kit, but as soon as you do that, as soon as there's not somebody in Gentleman Hero's lane to stop them from being able to push, you're going to lose so much. You can now see Gentleman Hero down towards the bottom side of the map. Obviously, the Baron is up and available, and their TP is nearly available again, so they can try rejoin if needed, but I don't think Gentleman Hero wants to ever join elsewhere. They want to force Marziah to go and join up in these team fights, and then you're going to lose more and more away from your base every single time. And there's only so many times you can take that trade before the thing you're trading for a couple of kills is your Nexus.
Absolutely, and I think a big thing to focus on now is that Redeemed is picking up that W Evolve with that Nash's Tooth now bought, so they have a lot more range in their kit now. Before, they were kind of falling into this trap of just getting stuck very close range. You see, maybe looking for an engage onto the Leona here, but might have just overstayed their bounds. Solar Flare is still available. Won't go down just yet. They will waddle away to safety. But yeah, they were kind of forced to play close range to find these picks, whereas now the Kai'Sa can sort of play a little bit further away from these champions. Doesn't have to just tank this full brand combo into her face, because the main problem was they weren't really respecting this full damage combo. 3 people now showing in the bot side, with Matthew alone with polarizing on the top side, means they will now look to start this Baron. They have a very, very fast Baron with the Zeri and the brand melting this one down, almost at half HP already. Kai'Sa and Zyra might not get here in time to influence this one, but with 3 members here, they can slow this down as much as they want. Gentleman Hero looking for a way in. The Rel ult
the Magnet Storm.
Kai'Sa W means that they can ult in, pulling up, and now the Baron looks like it's theirs for the taking. No jungler available to smite this one. Striker slowly walking up to the bot side, and what looked like a nice little play attempt from Foy has turned absolutely disastrous. They lose 2 members, they lose a couple of summoner spells, but most importantly, they lose the Baron. Their lead, their deficit is now all the way up to nearly 8,000 gold. This Fiora can probably force this tower even with LeBlanc in her face, has the demolition, has the Baron available. Damage Wing onto the chain, so it doesn't block the root, but does block the first damage section. We'll choose to just slip away. There's level 16 on the Fiora now with 3 items. This champion is a force to be reckoned with. Nobody can really match this in the side lane. Probably will need at least 2 people to even match her, which means that these objectives are free for the taking for Kit.
It really is, and this is the thing with playing Kit, is they're just going to see the angles a lot of the time. FOI have played a very impressive game so far, and I am really happy with the performance that they've shown, but in that fight, they just hadn't checked their flanks too effectively. Matthew is going to get jumped right here. Redeemed is in the area. The Solar Flare does miss. Matthew still taking a lot of damage. Now Striker is going to get here, be going to be able to drop down the Stranglethorns. I think that is just going to be a kill. Indeed, it is.
Over the Zeri, finds a really good angle here. Sitar landing the ult onto 2 people, being able to just pump out that damage. The trade 1-for-1 seemed okay at the start, but being able to flip over that wall unresponded. Redeemed was thinking about it there.
Oh,
thinking in the end with the second attack of the W, but the W on the other side from the Leona means that just enough resistances to survive that execute. Polarizing, looking for an EQ. Does go wide now, but stuck in a bit of a 1v4 situation. You might have a bit of damage, but you missed that spell. There's 4 people here waiting to kill you. Zeri damage not too great. Jumping in, and the clone does pop. On the other side of things, Fiora is just ending the game while this is all happening. Every time it looks like a fight is going well for them, they lose 2 towers to this absolutely monstrous side lane creature.
That's the thing.
Probably sitting on a 4th item.
Every time that it looks like a fight is going well, they lose towers. So why is the fight going well? It's because the Fiora isn't there. The second that the Fiora is actually involved in these team fights, you just lose out. And this is the really unfortunate thing about trying to play up against Gentleman Hero. It's polarizing. Yeah, we'll see it again. Went way too deep there. Was feeling themselves a little bit too much. Ends up getting taken out. But on the southern side of the map, you're losing so much. And I don't know what you can do about this as FOI, because you can't ban out Gentleman Hero. They have a million of these picks. Right now they're going to try to get the shutdown. It's 350, so it would be huge if you're able to grab it. Whether or not you do, you are going to lose this Drake on the other side of the map, and chasing onto a Fiora is just never a good time. Indeed, Gentleman Hero are going to be able to get away with this one. So you pick up a Drake, you don't lose your Fiora on the other side of the map. If we take a look at the individual gold, thank you very much, production. You can see that there are pretty big leads all across the board, but there's almost a 5,000 gold lead in that top lane. It has been a miserable time right here for Marzaya, and that's just the thing about giving Gentleman Hero the Fiora, but kind of giving Gentleman Hero any form of carry champion just never feels too good.
I mean, they only have one tower left outside of their Nexus towers, right? And all those inhibitors are still standing. It means they basically have no base left. They're really being caught out here. Might be able to trade back one, actually, onto Striker with nice little combo, but too much CC coming down on the back side of things. The Kai'Sa, the Void Seeker, just going wide. Does still have the Void Assault available, so can ult in if any CC does land here. Igneous, W lane from Kai'Sa. If one more of these lands, like, does a massive chunk of your HP bar, but the wave coming in just in time to help them out. Now, Fiora, a little bit maybe overzealous here, but we'll just survive these waves and look at that healing off the Hydra. We'll just one-tap these inhibitors now as well. Yeah.
It's so disgusting what we are seeing right here out of the Fiora. Gentleman Hero just steps up in the face of Sita. He's going to be able to pick that one up. Now, the Zeri has hit 3 items, so, you know, there is a big power spike here for the Zeri, but you have to make this fight work, and it's so difficult to step up. You can see all of the poke coming through out of those Prey Seekers, out of Redeemed, and then out of just everything, basically, that you can do right here as either a Zyra or a Jace. It just is miserable to try step up, and the second that you do, you've already lost half of your HP, and then you try for a fight. Gentleman Hero, once again, just flying with danger, but is going to be more than happy to walk this one out. We've got a little while until the next objectives are going to be spawning. Almost 2 minutes on the Baron, 3 minutes on the Drakes. It's just going to be about the pressure right now, and with all 3 inhibitors down, it's going to be very tricky for FOI to be able to step out and leave their base, meaning that all of the gold in their jungle is just going to be surrendered over to Kit. That being said, they do have at least those super minions pouring into their base that they can farm, get the levels, get the gold off of them. But it still feels like this game is just going to be very tricky to play out. You need one big team fight where you're able to get as much done with the brand as possible, land a mega ulti, and then not concede your base to the Fiora on the backside of the fight.
Definitely. I think the one real positive you can take here is now being able to just form up these waves. They can maybe look to have, you know, they have 3 items on the Aurelia now. They will have probably 3 items on the LeBlanc, 3 items and a half on the Zeri. They're not weak necessarily, they're just a lot weaker than their opponents, and the problem is trying to find these angles. If they can find a pick onto the Kai'Sa before a fight starts, before the objectives spawn, maybe something happens. But Kits don't really have any way to die without them just running in 1v5 in the enemy base, right? 3 inhibs are down, they can just slowly keep these waves pushed in, back off, get the Nash, get the Drake, come in, end the game with the next Baron, probably, given their lead, given the power on all these champions of Fiora, especially at level 17 right now, just such a force to be reckoned with. Polarizing now, shoving in that top lane, and can they even defend it? Maybe they can enter without the Nash. Igneous gets almost one shot on the back side of things. Striker being focused here, does get taken down very quickly with the burn from
Matthew.
the brand. Magnet Storm landing onto 2 champions, polarizing, doing ridiculous amounts of damage. The ADC is almost untouched. Redeem still have HP on the backside of things. Zeri trying as she might, but look at the super minions. Look at the 4 members standing from Kit. Game 1 goes the way of the Germans.
It does indeed, and what a fight it was right there to close things out. It just did not feel like there was really a way to get into this game for FOI, despite the fact that I think they played one of the best matchups we've seen up against Kit in a while. They were able to get solo kills on the mid lane, the bot lane was going pretty well, but it was the jungle top lane that just fell to pieces, unfortunately. And then beyond that, even though maybe it wasn't the cleanest, wasn't the best game out of a couple of the members of Kit, they were still able to find some big fights. Matthew specifically, with some brilliant engages with the Magnet Storm, was just getting the team into positions to be able to win these team fights. FOI, I liked what they were doing in a lot of places, but it just wasn't quite enough. They need to find a way to patch over this top laner.
Yeah, definitely. I think looking forward to this next game, you need to try and find a way where you at least drafting a winning top side, or if not drafting a winning top side, then just minimizing your losses, right? Because as soon as you gave away that first kill to the Fiora, things just started snowballing from there. No matter what you did on the rest of the map, that Fiora was in complete control. opening up the map. You were losing team fight after team fight after team fight, but it didn't matter because the enemy had no base to play through,
Yeah,
and
I
you
mean,
weren't down gold.
it was not good, right? In a lot of ways, it felt like you just couldn't quite find that moment to be able to team fight. You couldn't quite find the way to get yourselves into that game in the same way. Really unfortunate situation for FOI, but I think they can take a lot of positives from that game, right? It's not like it was all bad. It wasn't all
Yeah.
doom and gloom.
No, I mean 2 solo kills in the mid lane from
Yeah.
Ignis, right? Sadly, wasn't able to do much with it, but you keep that pressure up in the next game. If you're able to get that much pressure in the mid lane, turn it into something maybe more tangible, that's huge. Getting that early gold into the Zeri as well, if they were able to do more around the bot side, that would have been so big. I feel like maybe their focus was almost too drawn away by the fact that there's this big scary Fiora, to the point where the brand was trying way too hard to keep the Fiora out of the game rather than making the rest of his team the strong champions they needed to be to sort of negate that Fiora threat. So you had the strong Fiora, and you didn't have anyone that was strong enough to counteract the existence of that. You just had 4 people who were sort of averagely strong and who could team fight pretty okay, but as soon as Fiora arrives, everything blows up in your faces.
Absolutely, but that is going to be it from us for a little bit. We'll be back to bring you the next game. For now, though, we are going to throw it over to our brilliant analysts who are going to take you through what it was that KSC White did to be able to win that game. See you in a bit.
Welcome to L Analyst Desk. We're going to be looking over like 2 to 3 plays on what we think mostly defined this game, because it was definitely a bit of a side lane heavy game. So we're
Yeah, a
thinking
lot of
to
solo kills. A lot of
Mhm.
solo kills and a lot of action early on. We want to highlight one thing in particular that got this Fiora really ahead that maybe shouldn't have happened, or maybe Void could have prevented in order to make sure that this Fiora did not get the lead that she got, and maybe they could have snowballed through mid or snowballed through the Zeri kill that they got very early on.
Yeah, so the most important things as a laner, especially if you're playing top lane, because it's such a like you can get punished so easily, is to understand what are your priorities in a lane. So Freya just use teleport. So if Fiora gets if Irelia gets chunked right now, Fiora will just be able to freeze this lane. So number 1 priority on Foy's list should be I need to get this wave here. So this wave, if it gets frozen, it's gonna get frozen like right here, and then it's just the easiest gank ever. So you definitely want to get this wave into this tower. So the most important thing is get this wave in, so that afterwards Brand can do like grubs or he could just farm. But the most important thing is just to get this wave in. Now, usually what you can do is you can ask your jungler, hey, I need some help to push this lane out, and then you'll have a bigger wave to get it in. However, in this case, Fiora has no items. Irelia has item advantage, and Irelia will get level 6 before. So here we can see Fiora uses W. Fiora is still level 5. Irelia has item advantage and level advantage. But even though Irelia doesn't see where Zyra is, there's no way that Irelia with item advantage is going to die in this situation. But Irelia now plays
Before
super
Brand
passive.
comes, especially, right? So
Yeah. Also, Brand's like behind here, so this is like a way that as a top laner you can individually help yourself without asking for too much jungle attention. So Irelia has flash, ult, and Q up. So, and we're thinking you can flash onto this Fiora. Fiora just use Q. Fiora has flash up, but you have flash as well as Irelia. And the most important thing is to not let this Fiora base until you get this wave in, because you need to make sure that you get this wave in as a top laner, because like the wave is about here right now, right? And if this wave reaches the tower, uh, uh, or if this wave reaches the lane before you get this current wave into the tower, then it's gonna be a bad time. So Fiora, instead, already just doesn't really do anything here. But if you all in this Fiora, what happens? This Fiora is gonna be lower. Your jungle is coming. You can all in this Fiora because you have item advantage, and Fiora will be low, and you will be as already. You'll control all of this space, so Fiora cannot base in here. So Fiora's gonna have to walk all the way back here to base, and you will be able to get this next wave in as well. But instead, what happens is Irelia just doesn't punish this, slow pushes this wave in, and I mean we can just see what happens. Fiora
yeah,
gets to
blows her flash, and then eventually that ends up mattering for
yeah
the rest of the game as Zyra dodges the grubs, is able to get the resource advantage on top, and they're able to snowball that even further. I think it's really important to highlight that when you TP first like this as a top laner as well, your most important thing is to push that advantage, the
you need
item
to get your wave in.
advantage,
Yeah.
XP advantage, etc., to get the wave in, to get your team advantages. And in this case, it didn't happen, and the Aurelia actually lost resources because of it.
Yeah, because right now your wave is frozen. You cannot play as Aurelia if you don't have your wave with you, and then now top lane is just over.
Yeah.
We're also going to look at another play which is more macro oriented.
Yeah.
So to set this up again, they Void decides to yeah, Void decides to TP on bot lane with LeBlanc, and they get a kill. But we look at League in it as a game in terms of you've got your turns, and you need to definitely respect that you just used your turn and your tempo, and now you need to kind of give up something in return because you already took your because you just made a play, and now the enemy team will be able to make a play in return. So you need to like have kind of respect for that.
Yes, and the most important thing here is that most plays revolve around the waves on the map. So when LeBlanc actually TPs in, she's TPing as the mid wave is crashing in the mid lane, and actually loses about half her tower HP from this, as well as Zeri, because of the play that they made, has to base, get item, and actually loses out on the bot side when she could easily have taken the tempo advantage, the turn that they generated from the LeBlanc TP, into the top lane, into where the objective is, which is the Rift Herald, in order to play for the top turret, mitigate the Fiora lead, and trade things on the map after making the play. So maybe trade the bot tower for the Herald, trade for the top tower, trade to mitigate the Fiora lead, but instead they actually end up making a play that doesn't actually work out that well. They lose the Zeri, they lose mid tower, they lose bot tower, and this actually ends up snowballing the game from the 1k gold lead roughly that we saw from the top advantage to about 4k gold lead by the time this whole play ends.
Yeah, I think that's all. That's like the biggest things in this game. We'll come back after game 2.
One second. I don't know if that one's in there. I'm here.
It's a wonderful thing. I feel privileged about the situation because we were able to achieve something and we are traveling the country, visiting the country and playing the live final.
Our experience, I met a lot of new people that come from so many different places.
Just being with the team and having fun together and actually trying our best to win the competition.
For the first game of the Amazon University Esports Masters final. And it's category 5 for Boomen Academy. An absolute hurricane has leaped onto AIX, and they cannot withstand the to Boomen Academy are your 2023 Amazon University Esports Masters champions. And it seems as if Amsterdam dips in Norway.
Only going to take one shimmer on either side to crown this one, and Fabso may just have found it.
Congratulations on your win. As a team now, you get to claim your prize.
Still manages to get it deep.
The objectives have been wrong and
Second player, they're walking one by one into their graves. Winx Club finally, after a momentary pause.
And to all of you watching at home or wherever you might be, we are all grateful that Amazon University Esports Masters exists.
And we are back for the next game right here in the University Esports Masters 2024 Grand Finals for the League of Legends. We just got to watch Kit SC White pick up the first game in what felt like a relatively dominant fashion. That being said, FOI, they put up a little bit more of a fight than we were expecting, especially in that mid lane. It felt like maybe they could have been able to take that game.
Definitely. I mean, Igneous picking up those 2 solo kills was a real sort of focus point for me going forward. I think if we can turn that, I say we love an underdog. If if they can turn that into something a little bit more tangible, something a little bit more sort of visible as a lead, because the problem is those kills didn't really amount to anything. You don't really feel the LeBlanc's pressure around the map, and then later in the game, the Jace was just one-shotting her anyway. If we can turn those into tangible leads, while also just containing the top side. We don't need to win top side. We don't have to go crazy. Just contain the top side. Make sure he doesn't get one of these picks, which is so influential. I think you mentioned we can't just ban out top, right?
Yeah.
But we can try and ban out champions which have that much impact. I think Kayle and Fiora need to be gone.
Yeah.
I don't want to see either of them. I don't want to see either of them not picked up by Kit, because I think that is just giving them way too much influence. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how they sort of try to neutralize that top lane while focusing on those advantages they were able to pick up in the mid and bot lane. I don't think there was a problem with the LeBlanc pick or the Zeri pick. I think the problem was how they converted all those leads from the mid game into the later stages of the game. The bans so far pretty much identical as well. Ooh, finally.
Get rid of that. The Zyra was incredibly strong right there for Striker. The early lead it got especially was incredible. We did kind of get to see it borne out the way that matchup works up against the Brand, where the Brand in the big team fights was getting a lot more work done than the Zyra, but in those initial skirmishes, the point at which the game really ended up going in the favor of Kit, that's where the Zyra is so strong. Kit, though, they are going to get rid of the LeBlanc, so that is them conceding the fact that, hey, Igneous was looking really good on that one, decides to get rid of that. I can understand why. You are now leaving open quite a lot of those high priority picks for Kit. They are going to go towards the Jinx though. We talked at the start of the day about the fact that, hey, the Jinx doesn't necessarily feel like the strongest pickup anymore. Not on this current batch. But at the same time, if it is going to be piloted by Redeemed, it's one of their most played pickups throughout basically the whole of their career. I do like this as a first pick.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Jinx is still pretty safe to blind pick, just in the sense that she doesn't get as brutally rolled in lane as maybe some of the other hyper carries do. She can safely go Fleet Fork and Resolve in her rune tree as well and still scale pretty well. She can happily go PTA if the lane matchup is a little bit easier. She has options, and you know, she can build more focus towards the on hit. There's a Static Shift build that's out there, and there's a Kraken Slayer build that's out there, and just does eventually scale so well when she gets 2-3 items in.
Yeah.
I think scales a bit better than the Zeri, just in terms of her first items are a lot more useful than Zeri's first items. That being said, the Kai'Sa coming out in response again, so we see the hyperscaling ADC versus the sort of engaged one-shot bot lane coming out. Now, last time the Zeri was paired alongside an engaged support, we see Karthus being hovered for. Now, this is an incredibly strong pickup in the jungle. Was banned out last time, but the Zyra just had too much influence, they feel.
Yeah, I mean, the Karthus can be so strong. It's one of those pickups that Striker has played a lot of throughout this tournament and has had incredible success. Obviously, anything that they've played, they've had success with. Kit have not dropped a single game throughout the entirety of this tournament. Be interested to see if it is going to be the pickup of something to go alongside the Jinx at this point. I'm thinking something like the Lulu, maybe like the Milio. Instead, it's going to be going straight on towards this Sylas. Now, the Sylas already has, I'd say, one, maybe 1.5 decent ultis at this point, but it sort of stops a lot of the potential FOI pickups that could give a lot of extra strength over to that Sylas. You kind of don't want to pick a Malphite now, definitely at this point, because, yeah, you don't want to give that one over to a Sylas who will not only steal that away from you and use it, but deal more damage than your Malphite does with it as well. The round out will be that Xin Zhao. Now, I am surprised by that, because when you've picked yourself up this Kai'Sa, you want to pair it up with some very aggressive picks down in the bottom lane. We saw the Rel alongside the Kai'Sa for Kit in the previous game. That is always going to be very strong, but also, you know, there's tons of things that can work really well, like the Nautilus, like the Alistar, and giving away the ability to ban that up for Kit is going to make it a little bit harder, potentially, to get the ideal matchup to punish this Jing.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing I do like is this Xin Zhao creates a lot of space and is one of the champs that can actually fight a Karthus very early in the game. There's some jungle champions which Karthus is able to sort of cheese by walking up and holding E and landing a few Qs. The Sylas pick here as well, while a little bit strange locking it in this early, does neutralize a lot of picks because they are pretty much 99% likely, we do see a Fjordband coming in, 99% likely to have to lock a Bruiser in top lane here, just given the fact that they have so much AP damage now. Yep. It means they're knocking out a lot of counters to those picks. You're knocking out things like the Malphite, you're knocking out a lot of these heavy armor champions that have those really game-changing ultimate abilities, while also securing yourself a pretty strong mid lane pick. That being said, I'd be surprised if if Igneous didn't have push pretty much at every stage of the game, except maybe if there was like a level 1 cheese coming from the Sylas that already just able to push out so easily. As we see the Nautilus ban coming out, and I mean the Kai'Sa options are reduced a little bit. We'll be forced into this Leona or Rel option. Does go for the Leona instead. So it'll be interesting to see if they choose to match it with another engaged support, as they do with the Braum, who is pretty good because he can tank that Leona E and tank up a lot of that CC with the Jinx sitting far behind. As well as that, the range of the Jinx just makes that Solar Flare a lot harder to hit. We saw Leona into Kai'Sa last game, which was just a lot easier to play because that champion tends to be in close range to you, whereas Leona against Jinx, you have to sort of sacrifice a lot more to get in range of those champions. So we see the Braum or top laner getting covered around here. Braum it is.
Okay, the Braum, I do like that. There is a lot that you can stop right here with that shield. So, you know, it gives you quite a lot into this game. Interesting to see what the final round-out pick is going to be. Okay, that is a real departure from the sort of thing that we think of Gentleman Hero as playing. You know, this Mundo, it can do pretty well for itself in the individual lane, but it's a lot more about just getting tanky, being annoying in the team fights, and just absorbing so much of the pressure. It can get punished early on, though. Once you've got that level 6, it's a lot harder to kill onto the Mundo, but before that point, it's relatively easy if you can get on top of him. Obviously, hard CC is going to get taken away. Marziah, though, feeling pretty confident, is going to take the Darius. And so, once again, we're seeing another game where it feels like everybody on FOI wants to be their own individual carry. This game, though, it's a lot more of a, hey, we're not looking to play through the top lane out of kit. We are a lot more trying to get our Jinx into the scaling I mean, it's kind of scaling across the board, right? The Silas kind of can play through the early game, but also works really well once you get that 2-3 item point. So the early game could well be favored for FOI, and if they can play that one effectively, if you can use your Xin Zhao to gank as much as possible, as early on as possible, this is a way forward for FOI, and if you can get into the mid to late stages of the game with a big lead, that is a definite way to win this game, and they could take us to 1-1, you know, and potentially send us all the way to the end of the series.
I've had a vision, Bloxer.
Okay, hit me.
I've had a vision. During the break, I saw TikTok.
Okay.
And that TikTok was a fan cam of Dr. Mundo with Warmog's armor. Okay. Which, as we know on the current patch, Warmog's armor obviously received quite a few buffs back to back. So a lot stronger and a lot cheaper than it used to be. As well as that armor just a lot less useful than it used to be in comparison to HP. With things like LDR losing the max HP damage buff that they used to have.
Yeah.
It means stacking HP is very, very dangerous now. So that Mundo can buy Warmogs and basically just never leave lane again until he has like second, third item. That champion is such a tank in the top lane, such an absolute juggernaut reminiscent of the days when you were seeing Skarner, Mundo, Darius, full HP in the top lane juggernaut meta. So definitely a dangerous option there. Although he's probably not going to completely steamroll 1v9 the game, he might be a little bit unkillable in these late game team fights if they're not able to push those advantages, as we said, in the mid and bot side of the map.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to see if it is going to be another gentleman hero-based game as we do jump right onto the Rift. Game 2 between Germany's Kit SC White and FOI from Croatia. Kit, they were able to pick up this first game, and they made it look pretty dang clean overall. We'll have to see if FOI are going to be able to step back up and take us on to a Game 3 at even standings. This is a very different composition out of Kit. It looked like they wanted to play through the early game in Game 1, whereas in Game 2 right here, it is going to be a little bit more of a flipped situation, and I want to see what FOI can do as early on as possible, because you do have the ability to punish into the top lane, punish through the bottom lane as well. If you can get these lanes behind, all of a sudden, getting into that mid game feels a lot easier, because that's sort of the point at which, in the previous game, it felt like FOI, they just weren't able to get a foothold.
No, they absolutely weren't, and I think they have more proactivity in their comp this game, I will say. They have the Ahri, Kai'Sa, Leona, which is very, very good pick potential, especially onto these champions like the Jinx. If the Braum isn't nearby to block the Charm, if the Braum isn't nearby to block the Leona engage, they have two hyper carries in the Karthus and the Jinx, which can get taken down very, very easily. That being said, they have a lot to stop that from happening. You have this Mundo who's going to be this just giant block in front of you, and a Braum who can block that Charm. So if they're not able to find those angles around, these teamfights can become very, very difficult unless they already have a pre-established lead. So Ahri needs to get those roams in. Leona, Kai'Sa need to play around those timers as well as they physically can, because otherwise it can be very, very hard to ever reach Redeemed or Striker in these fights.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've sort of hit the nail on the head right here, where it is all about what this Mundo and this Braum can do to just buy space. We are going to see a little bit of early aggression going on. Forst is getting shoved back into this pit. Might well have to flash out the back, as we are going to see this full skirmish 3v3 right here. Polarizing, now going to flash over the wall, try to join up onto Forst.
Well, this is really awkward. Your Forst now getting united by that Braum. Matthew pulls up. We'll try and leave it for his teammate, but Silas just not getting here in time. Polarizing. They can have this done with the Braum pass, if it does come through. Igneous. A flash available. Charm does go down. Matthew flash forward, auto kills, and will survive the tower. Double kill onto Matthew, basing as early as he can. I don't think he'll pull minion aggro here, so he will get back to base of safety. The Jinx will lose a bit of pressure here, but does actually get solo XP on the backside of this, so not necessarily too bad for the Jinx. We'll see a replay of this. Matthew, the hero, Braum coming in from the side. The Crime City Ignite tried to leave the kill for Polarizing. On the top side of this, Marziah forced a Ghost Flash away as well, so all in all, collapse.
I mean, what a flex right there as Matthew heading back into lane, and look at the items. That's going to be boots. That is also going to be a Negatron cloak, and oh, hang on, Polarizing going to take a tower shot here. This is a little bit miserable for Polarizing. Either way, the Braum getting all of those items. This bot lane is now so tricky to play. Obviously, they're only going to be doing a bit of damage early on, so does Sitar. And the fact that you negate so much of that, plus you're extra speedy to be able to hit those passive stacks too, just makes this bottom lane so much harder to play, and it's exactly the opposite of what you would like right here for FOI. You really want to get an early advantage out of this Kai'Sa. You obviously get outscaled by the Jinx, and the fact that that's not going to be able to happen anywhere near as easily could have a pretty big impact onto this game.
Yeah, and Trunks coming out here from both bot lanes. That does land. They will get the stun, and the root will hit here as well from the Chompers. You're thing very, very low. Will be forced to flash away here. Zeke maybe just biting off a bit more than he can chew, but good trade back onto Redeemed at the very least, who doesn't have fleet footwork, does have the PTA, so won't have as much sustain maybe as they wanted. Faust now looking for a little sneak around onto Polarizing, but I don't think the Ahri is even able to follow up on this. So even though Silas has no flash available, Igneous too low on HP, used all their spells already. Polarizing looking maybe for an E over the wall to try and catch out Igneous. A WQ probably be enough to kill, but the minions spotting him out.
Yeah, indeed, it looks like Polarizing was, my lord, more than able to survive that early tower shot that they took, and are now making it pretty miserable to play this Ahri matchup. Obviously, the Ahri is going to be hyper mobile, is going to be looking to try to land a charm, hopefully onto Redeemed or onto Striker. Redeemed going to be the higher priority target, because obviously you can still get that ult off as the Karthus, even if you do die. But if you can land a big charm onto Redeemed to start off a team fight, this is going to go much, much better for FOI.
Absolutely.
Obviously, all of these lanes are fascinating, but I think we have to take a look at this jungle matchup, because that is an AD jungler. I've not seen one of them in a while.
Yeah, it does put a smile on my face to see. It does have a lot more, I suppose, should have a lot more agency in terms of just early ganking, right? The Karthus doesn't have the same, like, walk into a lane, have guaranteed CC, whereas we see already here Faust looking for a way to maybe impact on this bot lane with Matthew, and Redeemed slowly pushing this wave out. Hex Flash coming out now from Sake. Will land the E onto the Flashless Braum. Matthew likely to die here, but just waddling away. Okay, the knockup does come through from Faust. Does pick up that kill. Redeemed not able to do anything on the backside of that. So the Braum does actually finish. Merc Trezor in the top side. Marziah tried to trade back. A W reset. The passive not enough. Oh, blocks her. So
that
close.
feels so rough right there in the top lane. The Darius obviously going to want to get himself an early lead. Otherwise, you really just don't feel like you're in a good spot whatsoever. Obviously, it's a traded 1-for-1 kill in the top lane going over till in the bot lane for FOI. But it's a really odd situation to be in as this Darius. Matthew looks to stop some bases there. It's still a forced in the bush, though. Matthew?
Okay. Matthew might have lost his mind here, walking straight for Sitar. Not sure what happened there, but he will get taken down with the Kai'Sa passive proccing. Kill does come in, at least for Redeemed. So they get excited, I think, forcing him out to safety. Both mid laners walking down now. Polarizing is here first. Igneous just behind him. If they can kill someone very quickly before the Ahri gets here, it's good. And, well, for them, landing onto Faust, the kills do come in, but no reset onto the Jinx. So no get excited. Flash forward. Tron goes wide. Q as well. W damage coming in. They will be able to pick up the kill, at least onto Polarizing. Summoners used from both Sitar and Igneous. Still, 2 kills on to the Kai'Sa. Funneling herself very well. Up quite a bit of CS. Matthew now coming back in. Still wants to fight the Kai'Sa. Matthew, we don't have to do this. I think the fighting will just stop for now. Zakers can clear out that bush, and we'll see if there's a dive here.
Yeah, but the constant fighting means exactly. Redeemed has been forced to stay in this lane. Now has basically no HP left, no mana either. The dive could well come through. Without the flash onto Zayak, it's going to be a lot harder to play this one out. And so I think, luckily for Redeemed, they're going to be able to survive. Going to have to go back to base right now, though. Likely going to lose a good chunk of a minion wave as punishment. Striker, though, going to pick up the first set of these scrubs nice and quickly, as the Karthus is able to do. And that is going to make this tower push that much easier. Jinx obviously melts through towers. The Mundo, although he's not as big a split pusher as the Fiora is, can still do good work in that lane. And if we also take a look at the items that this Mundo has right now, that is 3 Ruby Crystals. I mean, just stacking the health. And it's fascinating to see the evolution of these aggressive top laners, because it used to be, if you wanted a super aggressive top laner who we'd get into game and we were like, right, you need to get going early or you're useless, it would be the Renekton. Nowadays, the Renekton, sure, if you get some early kills, he could be a monster, but he actually scales fine into the late game. He doesn't drop off the same cliff. He's pretty good at just buying space for your team. It's not something that the Darius is as good at anymore. He just feels like you have to get those early kills in the same way that you used to have to get those early kills on the Renekton. And the fact that you lose that early death, then you are also down by 13 CS, it just does not feel good the way that this has gone for Marziah. They're going to need a little bit of jungle attention potentially to try to get them back into this game. But Forced, I think for good reason, has been spending a lot more time around the bottom side of the map trying to get this Kai'Sa ahead. And it's leaving Marziah open to ganks and just open to being punished out from this Mundo who's pretty good at just saying no thank you to these objectives.
Sitar now look like they may have overstepped here. They do have 3 members into the 2, but that Kaiser will be taken down before any response can happen. Consult coming down to help out a little bit. Zake picks up one on the backside. Matthew flashing away. W out to safety. Follow-up flash from Faust. Can he get the knock-up? No! The slow just enough to buy Matthew his safety. Striker's ultimate in the end not actually contributing anything to this fight. It is, in the end, just a 1-for-1, but that kill will feel very good on the Jinx, who does pick up a BF sword. Meanwhile, Gentleman Hero in the top lane picks up a solo kill. It's hard to feel emotional about this. Oh, never mind. Never mind. I slipped to the side.
Good sidestep from Marziah. I think the fact that you don't get that kill, it doesn't mean as much as it could potentially have. I like this full commit right there out of Kit. You know, you are dead if you turn and run, so you might as well step forward, pick up that kill on to Redeemed, and then head back. Like you said, the BF sword are going to be grabbed. It is Swifties and an... Oh man, Swifties and Executioners for Marziah feels terrible as the first set of items that you have to pick up, but you have to do it. 20 CS down at this point, was very nearly solo killed. The fact that you don't die is good, you at least don't give some extra gold over to Gentleman Hero, but he's not going to care, showing that, hey, doesn't need one of those carry champions to be a carry in and of himself. Striker is going to engage here. You are a level up, but I don't know that you win this up against a Xin Zhao. Not a Xin Zhao with a pickaxe and 3 longswords at least.
No, pickaxe, 3 longswords, and an Ari hovering as well. Ignis was just waiting in the sidelines. There we see the Spirit Rush coming in from both mid laners. Polarizing, landing a good chunk of damage here. Ignis not hitting the charm just yet, trying to stall for the rest of her abilities. The Ari is Spirit Rush comes back over the wall. Polarizing, trying to land as much as he can. He's traded back at least one. Maybe Ignis didn't realize how much damage the Silas had, and now Polarizing has a chance to slip away from this one. Never mind. Wind becomes lightning, does just land as Faust would pick up 1 kill on the back side of that, trying to get this blast cone here. The Darius Striker and Marziah in the pit together. Marziah will walk away from his guaranteed kill as the bleed ticks away. Meanwhile, Gentleman Hero just making a mockery of Boris with his 3 ruby crystals.
Exactly. I mean, you're just chilling, and despite the fact that you die in that fight right there as Striker, it's still multiple kills going over to Polarizing. And beyond that, you are also going to be able to pick up that full Blackfire Torch on the reset for Striker. It's really well played out of Polarizing. Knows that they've got the healing and the damage. They just go all in. Does so much at this point. Unfortunately, gets hit by the wind, becomes lightning. Meaning the Forced is able to dash in and pick up that kill. As we're going to see a fight in the bottom lane. That's massive damage going on to Redeemed. Has to flash away. Is likely just going to fall here. Indeed they are. And even with that Requiem coming down, it's not going to turn into a return kill. At least Matthew is able to get away.
Very nearly got one more tower shot in there to pick off the jungler. Matthew will be forced to run away with his tail between his legs here. Missing so much CS here as well in the bot lane will be Redeemed, who was forced to use double summons, the cleanse and the flash. Back side of things, Marziah nearly landing the grab over the wall, but it will just be a flash to safety for Striker. Ghost still up on that Darius, so just lingering to see if Striker maybe overstepped his bounds. Will waddle back up to the top lane, collect that wave. Down quite a bit of CS, but at least got that kill to even things out of it. Striker gets these grubs. I think that will be 6 grubs for Kit.
It will indeed be 6 grubs if you are able to pick this one up uncontested. Force is in the area and does also have the help of Ignis coming over. Even being able to pick up 2 right here for Striker would be huge. Gonna have to smite away this first one. Doesn't have it.
You see,
just gonna
now
die.
Jumping in with a Spirit Rush doesn't even get the first grub, so it will be a trade of 3 grubs apiece. Polarizing now, looking for a way into this fight. Faust choosing to engage as quickly as possible to force him away from his top laner and try and make this a 1v2, but oh my god, the silence damage! Goodness me! Faust, clearly not expecting that. In the bot side, Redeemed dies in a 1v2 because Matthew was nowhere to be seen.
Salad.
Polarizing looks like a bit of a nuke.
Salad, look at the item. Look at the item on Polarizing. There isn't one. That's a 0 item. Silas. Oh, yeah, show us that again. Let's see it. Right now, Force thinking, oh, I can fight onto this. E, Q,
oh, God.
W, pop. Like, okay.
Yeah, well.
Fine. Sure. It's just a one-shot right there, and that's onto what is one of the tankier champions on this team. Obviously, you're going to have a little bit more health onto the Leona once we get further into this game, but for right now, you also do quite a lot of damage, quite a lot of healing on the Xin Zhao, but anything you can do, I can do better, says Polarizing. Picking that one up This is another game where, despite the fact that there are a lot of kills going back and forth, it just feels like Kit are in a little bit more of a stable position. Still, there is a pretty big gap in the bottom lane. Sit are going to be happy with that one. I wonder if we could just quickly check gold production, because it'd be interesting to see where these advantages are sitting right now. Take a look in the bottom lane. Yeah, there is a decent 600 gold lead for FOI's bot lane. That seems to be a lane they can try to play around. Elsewhere, though, top lane, oh, that one doesn't feel good. Same thing for the mid lane, where there's a pretty decent gap for polarizing. It's not as big as it could be. You know, we're still within about 1,000 gold between these two teams. But Kit, they just feel like they're picking slightly better fights, although this could be a bad one.
Full CC landing onto Redeemed. He will die before he's even able to look at the wall strike flash, where he didn't even have the flash if he wanted it. Another kill picked up by the Kai'Sa. That is 5 kills in the back pocket of Sitar, and they will pick up the Drake, most likely on the backside of this. Looks like it's going to be another case of, can this top laner stall out this game as much as he can to get the rest of the team back into this?
Yeah, absolutely. It really is going to be all on Sitar and Zayak to be able to win out this fight. You've got plenty of support. You know, you can send your Darius for us, you can send your Xin Zhao forwards, any Ahri charm to buy you some extra space as well. And if a Kai'Sa can weave her way through these fights and go in, potentially with Force and Igneous as well into the backline, this could be a good game out of FOI. At the same time, though, polarizing is terrifying right now, isn't able to land the next set of chains to be able to pick up that kill. The second those chains lands, you do just die.
Oh dear, Polarizing. I don't think he wanted to hit that minion. Charm coming back on the backside. Polarizing flashing forward. He knows he kills anyway. Jesus, this Silas is just taking fight after fight after fight, and always coming away with at least a kill. Striker stealing the red buff. I think that'll be the end of this one. Faust waddles away to do his bot side camps.
Yeah, doesn't know that there is somebody in the bush right there. Really doesn't want to check who it is, especially not when it was going to be Striker and Gentleman here. That would have been a pretty terrible situation to have popped up into. Striker potentially hovering around, looking to pick up this Herald, maybe looking for a gank onto the top lane here too. As it was really unfortunate right there. Polarizing hits the chain onto a minion, gets dashed in, so you're not able to do that full bit of damage. It means they do have to blow the flash in order to get the kill, but the fact that you're able to get the kill back and forth is at least going to be something, as Gentleman Hero is full build.
He is full build, and a bit of a record scratch freeze frame moment there for Polarizing as he realized he had to make something happen, but picking up a kill yet again. Gentleman Hero, I don't know if you saw, got 2 plates with a single auto there, so that's a kill with 1 auto. That was quite nice. Completely cleaved the entire towers. Striker will now look up to pick this Herald. Only 3 grubs on their team as Igneous is hovering around, but no jungler available to help out, so just kind of seeing what's going on in the situation. Top laners farming back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, indeed. These, Igneous is
hello.
going to go in. Might be able to kill Striker before they're even able to smite this one
Hello,
out.
okay.
Is able to.
He has to try and last
Who
this
gets
Herald
it?
now as
Who
well,
gets
away
it?
from the Brother Q's. Just get the Q off and
Gets
one last
it,
prayer
wow.
rush. I think Igneous accepted that. You're trying to get to the eye before they can die, but they're able to pick up that kill. So overall, probably okay. You do deny the Herald and you do pick up the kill.
Yeah, you do. You know what? I'm happy with that one. As
Oh, no!
We are going to see a teleport behind.
Gentleman Hero TPing in behind here into the bot lane. They picked up Faust as well. So now it's a 3v2. Redeemed, waddling away. Sitar trying to find a W. Just goes wide. The Zap misses as well. Super Mega Death Rocket lands onto Zeke. The ultim's coming in from Sitar to try and pick up a kill on the backside. Carter, the Requiem, locking down the ADC. Zeke might be able to get to safety, but Gentleman Hero popping the move speed. Will waddle her down and cleave her dry. Goodness me.
Oh boy. I mean, what a play right there. This game is so explosive. Messiah now going to be the next one to be in a bad situation. Just gets popped right there. Polarizing is disgusting in this game. And it is action all across the board in this game 2 of the Grand Finals. We're going to have a look at this bottom lane play once again. I love the aggression out of Sidar. Uses the flash, gets involved, knows that you're going to die, especially with the Requiem coming down. Zac also just going to get chased down. We talked about how it was miserable to run away from a Fiora, and it is, but it also sucks to try to walk away from one of these Mundos. Every cleaver that hits, it's just so impossible to get away. The Slun is incredibly strong. And at the end of that fight, things feel relatively even. You blow a teleport out of Gentleman Hero, so that is at least something, but you're giving more kills over to the Mundo, you're giving more kills over to the Silas, and the only person who feels like they're not having the best time of it right now is Redeemed on this Jinx, but the Jinx will get there. You know, once you get the first kill in a team fight, the Jinx gets excited. It's going to be fine either way. Always going to be a tough game to play a Jinx. There's a lot of backline access out of FOI, but I don't think you mind too much because the Jinx is just the artillery support at this point. What you're actually watching is what could be done by Polarizing when they go all in and just blow up whatever is in front of them.
Absolutely, and like with 99% of these games, it looks like it will come down to this third Drake fight to really swing the game in one of these teams' favors. You're looking at both ADCs, Sunless, obviously Barrier available, and Cleanse will be available. No flashes to be able to get out of those fights. Polarizing doesn't have his flash up either, so maybe Igneous has a bit more agency in finding these picks in these fights. Whether we see the back-to-back Spirit Rush again remains to be seen, but Gentleman Hero in these fights I think will be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, a Heart Steal now completed, as well as that Warmog's picking up another tower in the bot lane, and now just running down the Ahri with those cleavers, chunking her down so much. 20 seconds on the Dragon, and they have full control of the bot side river.
They really do. They're going to be able to force FOI away. Although that being said, looks like
Zake's
FOI
been
want to
caught
fight.
out. So Leona Zake has been caught out on the backside, already down to half HP, deciding to go all the way in. Can they get a reset? That's one of the Jinx. Stun on to the Kai'Sa as well. 2 kills for the Jinx, 3 kills for the Jinx. The 4th goes to the Karthus as Igneous will run away with his tail between his legs. The Cleaver does land. Spirit Rush still available. So we'll have 3 chances to get away from this window. That's 1. That's 2. The Cleaver missing, so no more slow and speed up for the Mundo. Jinx, on the other hand, opening up that middle lane to create some pressure on the map while they take the Infernal Dragon. That negates the threat of the Soul as Igneous, looking at that Zap, does have Flash available, but I don't think he'll be forced to use it just yet. As you replay of that fight.
And you can see in this fight, it's a full all-in onto Matthew, and I mean, it's just not the target that you want to be trying to put all of your damage on top of. And if you notice something in this fight, the Sylas gets there late and doesn't really get too much done. You know, does a little bit of damage, potentially, but isn't able to land the chains, doesn't manage to dash in and blow somebody up. Imagine that team fight again if the Sylas isn't having to teleport in, is already there, or is in position for a flank before the team fight starts. It's going to go even worse right now for FOI. And we talked about it, how there is just massive scaling on Kit's composition, and we really needed to see a massive early game out of FOI. It didn't happen in the top lane. Your Darius fell behind, does now have the Trinity Force completed, so, you know, that's at least something, but isn't ahead in the way that you really want to. Instead, it's going to be 2 fully completed items onto the Mundo. If you needed more health on top of the health that you've got for yourself innately through the Warmogs, there's also going to be a stacking Heartsteel, so just going to be impossible to kill this Mundo. And then everyone else who maybe didn't have the best early game is beginning to get online. 2 items completed onto the Jinx, 2 items completed onto this Karthus as well. And I just don't know that FOI were able to get themselves far enough ahead early on to be able to take this game. There's a scrap in the jungle.
Absolutely, yeah. Looks like Striker has been caught out here. Super goes wide, but it will be a trade at least with the Super Mega Death Orb coming in. That reset means that Kai'Sa is now in a bit of danger. Backstep from Redeemed. Not able to get the red buff slow here. Just a bit out of range. Backstep on the Zap does mean they get hit, but a 2-man Solar Flare just buys enough time for Sidar to get out. This Mundo, though, wants the tower. Might have left his team in a little bit of danger. Redeemed completely on his lonesome as Gentleman Hero realizes his mistake and tries to escape out to the top lane. But this ghosting Darius has not had enough just yet. Ghost runs out as Polarizing lands onto the tier 2 into the top lane. He'll probably have enough time to finish this, but will he have enough time to get out of this one? Big shutdown on his head as well.
Can he take someone with him? I think is the question. I think you're dead, but who do you get to take with you?
Absolutely. Igneous now looking for the charm, does miss, does grab the Spirit Rush, so that's 3 dashes to try and get out of this one. The Blast Cone used, the Spirit Rush available. I think he's out of this one. I don't think they can reach. No Solar Flare available just yet. Still has the Spirit Rush, didn't even need to use it. Flash Forward from Faust, but that guy has 3 dashes, Faust. How are you going to stay onto him? Jumping away. Yet again, no ultimate available for the guys to follow up. Gentleman Hero tanking up 3 champions will go down. Shutdown picked up by the Jinjao by Faust. Polarizing, trying to get back in again. I'm not sure if that was the right call. Doesn't get a kill this time. It's not going to work every damn time, Polarizing. You can't just keep going in.
Oh man, I think that is a real show of the fact that Kit, they're feeling good in this game because you were out. There was no reason for Gentleman Hero to have died in that fight, and there was no reason whatsoever for Polarizing to have died. They had managed to commit the great escape, get out of that fight in a way that they really had no right to, but you know that resets are going to come through out of FOI. They start up the Baron, and to be honest, just getting those 2 Scryers out of the way, sorry, not 2 Scryers, you know, those 2 Blue Wards out of the way is going to be huge, because that's now a bit of vision that you just don't have long range. It's a very small advantage, but for just auto-attacking the Baron twice. It's a little bit of something. Yeah, I think Kit, they're feeling good. They were happy to just try for that fight again. And yeah, you are super tanky as Gentleman Hero, but if you're tanking all 5 members of the opposition, you're really not going to survive for anywhere near long enough.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 shutdowns didn't affect much either. You're giving Jin Zhao a second item, which he would have probably got on that base anyway, given the longsword extra that he has. So in reality, it doesn't change too much about the actual landscape of the game. They have picked up that first Infernal, so there's no soul pressure for FOI either. They're kind of just slowly slowing this game out. Once that Jinx gets to 3 items, she's going to become absolutely nuclear. Already so strong. We've seen these Super Mega Death Rockets have such a huge impact in pretty much every fight already. Silas as well, just outputting ridiculous amounts of damage. The Mundo, once that Titanic comes in, those orders are going to hit like trucks. Yep. And the Karthus is just able to put so much AoE damage into these fights. 2 Warmogs as well. These champions are having a good time.
I know, they're just going to be surviving, living. If you don't 100 to 0, it's 8 seconds, and then you're just back in the fight. You're just available to go again. That sort of healing, that sort of reset just isn't available for anyone really on FOI other than Zayak, which, I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not going to be quite as effective of having 2 of them, especially one on top of a Mundo. Still, there are 2 dragons that have gone over to FOI, to the one that Kit were able to pick up for themselves. It is going to be that Infernal Drake that they pick up, and so they could potentially be looking to get a full Infernal Drake soul. That would be huge for the amount of damage they're able to do. You can just imagine how much that Requiem out of Striker would be able to do through that, as it looks like they are going to posture on over towards the Baron, expecting FOI to want to pick themselves up a 3rd one of these Drakes. They're not going to go for it. They're going to wander over, but I don't know if they're going to get here in time.
Oh no, I don't like this from FOI. It looks like they're going to sacrifice both objectives here because they're not going to get up here in time. The smite does come down. Redeemed getting taken pretty low, but Brom able to block out most of the damage from the Kai'Sa. Redeemed just backstepping now, trying to get out of this fight. Gentleman Hero on the back now in a 1v5 scenario. I don't think he'll be able to pick up any kills. Trying to flash out to safety. The Spirit Rush from the Ahri is following through, getting tagged by pretty much every range spell, but the more time he stalls, the more time they have to get back into the fight for this Drake. Silas picking up the tier 2 in the bot lane as well, so that's another 650 into Polarizing's back pocket. Was going to base, but choosing not to just yet. W lands from Sitar, getting a bit more poke out, but Redeemed was able to base and get full HP back, as well as an extra Zeal, which is quite important. It doesn't look like they're going to try and contest this Infernal Hell.
Matthew is going to get jumped, though. I don't know if he is going to die. No, indeed.
No, absolutely not. As able to just 3-man try and stall this one out for now. Marzaya trying to find a way in with the Ghost on the Darius, but
look at Silas.
I think the call from the team is to back off because the Silas is ending the game. Karthus will stop
they can't
all
recall.
4 backs. Polarizing gets the inhib, but they pick up Marzaya on the backside of this as well. So Jinx excited. Baron buff as well. They take the inhib bot. They take the inhib tower mid. They won't need the wave to get this. They'll get the inhibitor as well, most likely. Faust trying to find a way in, but these Baron buffed minions, as well as the Void Mites knocking onto the inhibitor. They can now 5-man slide into the top lane because Mundo has respawned with TP available. They have no top laner to match. They're against these Baron buff minions. They're against a Mundo with Demolish, and they are breaking through this base. Triple inhib of a play which looked like it was bad for them. Cleanse comes down to Soulflare, only landing the slow Faust. Nobody can get onto the Jinx. Kai'Sa finally finding a way in, but Sitar can't kill. It's the first of many executes to come, as Redeemed will find the 2nd reset. Sitar goes down eventually after the barrier. They pick off the Ahri with Igneous. The Spirit Rush coming down. Marzaya gets at least 1 reset back, and all the members are quite low, so this could get dangerous if they're not careful. Another reset for the Jinx off that tower. It's a 2v3 situation now with this wave. They're looking to end the game on the Nexus tower. Redeemed just trying to space out. The E does not hit the ADC, and now Redeemed is free hitting onto everyone. Another rocket picks up another kill, and the 11 kill Jinx ends this game 2-0 for Kit.
I mean, the tech right there, out of the Karthus was just disgusting. Actually, that was so insane to see out of Striker. You have yourself Leandres and a Blackfire, so you have a ton of burn damage. You've got yourself a Silas pushing into the base. Everybody goes to reset to go catch that wave. You ult. They cannot recall, not just in the time that, you know, the normal damage takes, but you're ticking, you're burning, you're not able to recall. It means that you just have to run back to your base. You're also being harassed by everybody else. You lose so much. And as soon as you smell the end for Kit, they just go for it. They're just able to pick this one up. And it was a game that felt like it was relatively back and forth. You managed to get the 3 items onto the Kai'Sa. Hey, you're in a pretty good spot, but it just isn't enough, not versus the way that Kit are able to play these fights.
No, and it's a jinx in 2024 with Baron buff. Once you get that kill with Baron in the late game, you know what's coming. It's curtains, the writings on the wall. They were able to close that one out. I mean, you know, Leona hits the E at the end, and maybe they can stall out one more fight, but you think they probably end off the next team fight anyway, even if they don't end right there. So another great performance from Kit. I think we'll be heading over to the analyst desk right now for getting into game 3.
So now we want to talk about how either or both of these teams can tackle this Drake, because there's a Drake coming in like 30 seconds, and we believe that both teams are able to play this better. Even though blue team ends up coming out on top, like Kid actually gets like a triple or a quadra kill here. It's actually important to know that even though they come out on top, there's always things that they can do better. So let's look at the game. So the resource that Kid has is they pushed Ahri out, they have vision, and more importantly, they have Sylas with teleport. And as we can see here on the map, there's no one on top lane. He was facing Darius before it, but Darius has no teleport and Ahri's on bot lane. So an important thing to know here is that even though Drake is coming up in 25 seconds, Sylas has 25 seconds to push this wave. And if he pushes this wave, it's gonna create, it's gonna put Foy on a timer, because Sylas is it's gonna keep pushing. And if he gets his tower and he's uncontested, Kid doesn't even have to start this Drake at all. So what would happen is being put on a timer. Let's say Foy starts the Drake, so like Drake spawns, and they start doing the Drake, and they're all here, and they start doing this Drake, and Sylas is pushing on the minimap here, and he starts hitting tier 3. They have to contest this Drake, and because they have vision here, they know exactly where Foy would be doing this Drake. They can either decide to, okay, we're gonna leave this Drake, and we're gonna just take tier 3 and inhib instead, or we can teleport in if the fight's good, and then Foy's gonna have to take a pretty bad fight because they came down through bot lane and from the river, because they're gonna take this wave right now as well. So Kit has a million ways to get into this Drake fight. They can walk through here, they can walk through here, they would have full information. So it's just important to know that even though Kit ends up winning this fight here later, it's important to note that you can always do things better, even if you're Kit at this point, by just creating more points of pressure. And now we're going to look at it from the side of Foy about how they could have done things better.
Yeah, and if we go to 1750, we really see the start of Foy's setup here. So Darius is basing, Kai'Sa has 2 items, so the focal point of Foy is going to be Kai'Sa. You know, you have this 2-item Kai'Sa that can carry a team fight very easily, and you kind of want to do something similar to what Dan said. You actually want Kit to start the dragon first and have the proper setup to go against it. So Ahri can get off the map as quickly as possible instead of trying to defend this tier 1 that is pretty much always going to die, and be able to come out through mid with Kai'Sa. Now if we go a little ahead in the clip, we'll see the mid wave crashing in the middle of the map, and we'll see who gets there first, right? In order for Foy to get vision, they actually need to go through this mid wave here instead of walking through the choke points before everyone is ready to fight. The mid wave gets some information for who's catching, and then they're able to parlay that into control of these 2 bushes here, which is incredibly important in order to start a dragon fight and make sure you're not flanked, and make sure that you have control of at least one area of the river. Instead, they go in one by one, way too quickly, way too deep, and they actually don't use the Kai'Sa advantage that they generated through letting her push away mid, get the buy, and then have 2 items to fight accordingly. So a lot of things that each team can do better, but I've been really enjoying the game so far. I think Danny has 2. Lots of fighting, lots of kills. These teams are both aggressive, and it's great to see.
It definitely seems that the fights right now are very or the game seemed to be very solo lane oriented. Like Kid seems to be getting a lot of advantages through pushing their side lanes and then choosing a fight afterwards, even though there are some iffy moments like when Karthus is topside in the jungle here invading. It definitely does seem like if Kid can just keep pushing side lanes and then rotating afterwards, it seems like they will be keeping that advantage throughout the series.
Yes. And for Foy, we definitely want them on the waves. We want them to use that to get information to start better fights than the ones they're starting. They're winning some of the bad fights that they're starting already, but if they start better ones, they can claw back into the series.
Let's see what happens in game 3.
I'm sure. I think, personal note, I need to. My focus in team fights has been on the wrong things once or twice. So I need to focus on where the important action is rather than what's like lurking in front of me. Because again, I feel like I'm more in watching League mode than casting mode right now.
It's a wonderful thing. I feel privileged about the situation because we were able to achieve something and we are traveling the country, visiting the country and playing the live final.
Our experience, I met a lot of new people that come from so many different places.
Just being with the team and having fun together and actually trying our best to win the competition.
For the first game of the Amazon University Esports Masters final.
Let's
And it's category 5 for Booman Academy. An absolute hurricane unleashed onto AIX. And they cannot withstand the Dr. Booman Academy are your 2023 Amazon University Esports Masters champions. And it seems as if Amsterdam dips in Norway. Only going to take one shimmer on either side to crown this one, and Fabso may just have found it.
Congratulations on your win. As a team now, you get to claim your prize.
Still manages to get a defuse. The objective has been wrong and
second player. They're walking one by one into their graves. Winx Club finally, after a momentary pause.
And to all of you watching at home or wherever you might be, we are all grateful that Amazon University Esports Masters exists.
And final time as we are in this matchup between FOI from Croatia and Kit SC White of Germany. This has been a truly insane series, but it has been 2 wins right here for Germany. Do you reckon that we're going to get to see a 4th game, or is this going to be it?
Yeah, so far things going as predicted. Whether I think we're going to see a 4th game, I'm going to say yes, holding out hope as a caster for the love of the game, the love of the sport. But the way things have gone so far, I haven't seen enough yet to warrant FOI winning a game. Kit have looked dominant in ways that seem a bit hard to deal with, in the sense that even when it looks like they're not winning, they are. Even when it looks like they're not in the lead, they know how to close out those games, they know how to stop you from playing through your advantages. So that's my fear going into game 4 for FOI, is that they haven't found a way to deal with that yet.
Yeah, not quite. It really has felt like the top lane has been a massive canyon of difference. That being said, mid lane, bot lane, they have been much more even. We saw a mid lane win in game 1 for Croatia, a mid lane win in game 2 for Germany. You know, it's been really back and forth. Bot lane, it has felt like, has been the bastion of strength out of FOI. They've now played 2 very good games, one on the Zeri, one on the Kai'Sa, and both of those, it looked like that was the lane potentially that could be played around. We'll have to see if you can actually play fully around that as FOI in order to get a victory. In order to do that, I think you're going to have to stem the bleeding in the top lane, and we'll see if that's going to be possible. For these first set of bans, everything is relatively standard at the moment. The Zyra jungle is just not going to be allowed to go over to Striker again. It makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, Striker has been so good on it, and it's so strong at the moment. After game 1, just absolute stomping. There's no way that one was going to be picked up once again.
Definitely, and the Karthus did look less impactful, but not useless, right? And I think if you have a better game on the Karthus, that can become a really big problem. In the end, you know, even having that massive ult at the end of the game, that 4-man ult which stopped all the bases, which ended in them ending the game, probably would have won anyway, but just a champion that has too much impact around the map, and I feel like giving it over again, obviously Kit, whether they favor that Jinx B1 again, whether they try to pick something a little bit more aggressive this time would be interesting, but I think letting that Karthus go through is still dangerous. There's just too many strong champions here for Kit. I feel like they don't mind having blue side.
No, exactly. And once again, feels like Redeemed are just saying, hey, I don't care that it's not the biggest bit of meta at the moment right now. Give me the Jinx. It looked absolutely fine last game. Sure, in the individual 2v2, they ended up losing a couple of kills. Wasn't as strong, but once we got to the team fights, it's clearly a massive comfort pick for Redeemed. They were able to use it to great effect. Now, this would be a big departure from what Sitar and Zayak have been playing. They have been trying to get very aggressive with their bot lane. Instead, hey, we're going to fight late game scaling with more late game scaling. This Kog'Maw can look so good later on. Really does rely on having a good pairing in that support role. There are three options: the Braum that we saw last game, the Lulu, or it's this, or it's going to be the Milio. We are going to see the Milio paired up. It's also a takeaway from what you would like for the Jinx. I wouldn't be surprised to see the support pickup right here for Germany right now, because I think you do not want to be giving away all of those really strong pickups. I can see the Braum going onto the ban table pretty quickly on. Striker, gonna play the Karthus again. And hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think Germany may well just try to repeat what we saw in the previous game.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what it comes down to now is, do you want to go for another engaged support knowing that the Milio's on the table, or something like... I was just about to say something more focused on a hook or a knockup like the Blitzcrank, which can't be stopped by the Milio, right? If you get Blitzcrank hooked, you're not Milio ulting that. If you get Blitzcrank hit, you're not Milio ulting that. That is just guaranteed CC was going to land on you. As we do see the Nefiri come in, that was something that was banned out in Game 1. Game 2 didn't really see any presence, but getting locked in now in Game 3, that Assassin in the mid lane, which does scale very, very, very well as well. Fiora ban coming in, so what I like about this is this could be a very, very volatile game. You've got the Blitzcrank in the bot lane with two hyper-scaling ADCs, one on either side. You've got an Assassin, you've got the Karthus, you've got so much raw damage right now on the board. It'll be interesting to see what's picked in the top side, whether we funnel more with the bruisers or whether we go for something like the Mundo that we saw last game, have a bit more of a stalemate in the top lane.
Yeah, exactly. If we do end up with a bit of a stalemate in the top lane, I don't know necessarily that hampers Gentleman Hero that much. Seem to be able to find victories even in matchups that look like they weren't going to be so good. Mazai just hasn't been able to find what that solution is going to be to the absolute just wrecker that is Gentleman Hero. We are going to see the ban onto the Fiora as well as a Syndra and a Brand ban. I do like that, taking away the Brand. Forst had a pretty good game on it previously, and it did look very, very strong. Going to be fascinated to see what the pickup is going to be for Polarizing, because they did lose out in that matchup up against the LeBlanc. You know, the LeBlanc was able to pick up quite a few kills. It was looking really nice early on. And so the Assassin clearly is something that Igneous can play. Previously, though, the Sylas looked amazing. I don't think you have as many good ultis for the Sylas right now, known that really are going to help you out with being particularly aggressive as you would like to be. So we'll have to see for that one, but it is obviously going to be that pick up right now.
Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh. Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
In terms of the AP junglers, I'm very surprised to see the Evelyn.
I think the positive here, we're throwing a spanner in the works a bit, metaphorically speaking, not as in... I chose the wrong metaphor. Sue me. That's not what I meant to say. What I meant to say is they're changing things up in a way which could work for them because they're being a bit unpredictable here. What they're doing is they're coming up with a playstyle which Kit probably haven't really had to play against too much, and they're coming up with something which maybe is going to make the gameplay get shuffled up a bit. We're not going to play around objectives the same way, we're not going to play the lanes the same way. And does that mean we can find new angles to win because Kid aren't used to this? At the same time, we haven't really seen them play like this either. We don't know if they're capable of playing like this. We can't Yone locked in. Okay, so far we have 9 champions that want to kill you and a Mundo. We have incredibly volatile lanes and team fights, and then just this Mundo sitting here chilling, soaking everything up, watching it happen, thinking, guys, can we calm down? Can we be at peace? Can we just have some fun? I will say I prefer Kit's draft in general, but I like what Foy have done in that they've just thrown everything out the window and gone for something a bit more glass cannon, a bit more like, listen, we're not really winning team fights, we're not really winning the macro game. Let's just try and pick these champions which can snowball and go absolutely nuclear in like a 1v9 setting.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I love the aggression that we're seeing in this potentially final game right here. It's a wombo combo of dreams, pretty much, for Kit. If you can land that cannon ult at the same time as you hit a Fate Seal that are polarizing, oh boy, you're also then going to get a kill out of that pretty much guaranteed. Your Jinx is now excited. There's going to be a Karthus ult down on top as well. And started off, maybe you managed to hit a Blitzcrank hook. I think the Blitzcrank feels a little bit different than everything else that we've gotten right here out of Kit. It's very, very different though right now out of FOI. This is what they're putting as their last stand. They're looking to scale up with your bot lane. Same kind of thing with your top lane. Right here, I think Force Igneous, they're going to have to play together in order to try to get things going in this game. Evelyn, I said yesterday, obviously very different context, but I said yesterday that Evelyn was one of the few AP junglers that I don't love at the moment. It's because we got a Nidalee. I wasn't loving the Nidalee. I wasn't loving the idea of an Evelyn. This game, I think it's a little bit better because Jinx is super immobile and can potentially get jumped on. That being said, we are going to be jumping in right here. This could well be our third and final game of the 2024 University Masters. Let's see who's going to be able to pick this one up. Can Kit make it a 3-0 and make it their third victory at this tournament? Or will FOI be able to send us to a game 4?
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Jinx, but we have 4 champions without a dash, right? Like, we have the move speed buff on the Blitzcrank and the cannon, but outside of that, the only champion with real mobility is the Yone, and even that is mostly conditional and mostly used for engage rather than trying to pull away from the Evelyn. So a lot of very easy targets here, and a lot of very squishy targets. Nobody really builds HP outside of the cannon, and nobody really builds these sort of... yeah, get it, yeah.
That's a great dance.
Yeah, get it, yeah. Anyway, Bloxer.
Yes.
Point being, there is value for the Evelyn here. There is value in this sort of squishy champion annihilator because of how easy it is to get on to pretty much all 4 of these champions. If she can get away from the blitz to not get silenced and to knock up into one shot, then there's, a few easy picks here.
But it has to happen. You have to get those picks early, because if you fall behind, you are so much less useful. That's sort of the thing with the Zyra, with the Brand, with the Karthus as these AP junglers, is even if you fall behind, you're still going to be useful in that your ult is huge, and that you've got some stuns, all of that. An Evelyn that's behind is super meh. You do so little, you're so squishy, you're hiding away from the opposition, but like, mainly for your own safety rather than for anybody else's. But if you can get those early kills, if you can get yourself ahead, anytime you don't see the Evelyn, it's because she's right behind you and you're about to die. And that is a terrifying position to be in. Like you said, for quite a lot of these champions, you fall behind a little bit and you're not going to be able to one-shot the Blitzcrank or the Yone. But if you're ahead, you can pretty much one-shot all of these guys, and starting off a teamfight like that will be huge. It is very much 2 assassins, go and kill somebody, and then you win the 4v5, the 3v5, maybe even if you go for different objectives. It is a little bit of a hard composition to play for FOI. Kits, though, also pretty hard. You're relying on some big wombo combos. Take a look at what the junglers have decided to do. They both started up on the top side, will be working their way down towards the bottom lane. It's going to work out a little bit better potentially for Forced, because there is that big push coming through out of Kit's bot lane. You could get into that lane to try to find yourself a potential gank. Although, that being said, they're going to shove this wave in and then head into the bot side jungle to spot out where this Evelyn is. You love to be able to track an Evelyn through the jungle, because it just stops so much of what she's trying to do.
Yeah, nice little Tracer coming down here in the mid lane. Igneous polarizing both his... testing their limits a little bit. That bot lane should have push for most of this early stage of the game. Neither of the Cogmore or the Millia wanted to get caught up by that hook, but Faust looking for the first gank here on this Evelyn. Is faster than the Yone. That E might have been a little bit dangerous from polarizing, because now pretty much guaranteeing the charm. No, just about runs out. Polarizing will try and make his way to safety, but Faust not got much damage left in his kit. Polarizing really wants to take this fight, choosing to save the flash, try very hard to 1v1 the Evelyn in this scenario, and ends up giving away first blood to a champion which really wants that first blood.
Absolutely, that is going to be very big for Forced. Obviously, is going to lose out onto the blue buff and onto the Gromp, but it was really nice pathing, actually. I loved the push out of Matthew. Hang on.
No, Matthew's behind you. Does get hit by the bubble with his head. Oh, and flashing directly away from the hook means that Zyke gets hit by it instead. Double sums used by the Milio. Sitar nearly sacrificing his support there for the greater good of the team, but eventually both do get away, albeit at the cost of 3 summoners.
Support lives matter too. That was a little bit unfortunate, but we're going to have a look back at that mid lane play. Yeah, like you said, Polarizing does have the flash away, could potentially try to get out of this situation, does not work, gives over the first blood, and it was great pathing out of Force that made that happen. I love the way that Redeemed Matthew pushed in that bot lane. Hang on, they're going to die. I can't talk about this.
Oh,
they're just going to
no,
both
and it's
die.
a second kill onto the Eve, deciding to leave the third for Sitar there. And Striker in this bush, but what's he really going to do? There's 3 members here ready for him in case anything does start to happen. No mid lane available to help out. He is posturing very aggressively, trying to force his way in. Most members are quite low, and with level 5, would look to actually fight. This charm does land, and now with 3 members all hitting onto him, will be forced to flash away. Doesn't want to give up on this one just yet, sitting around here collecting quite a bit of XP.
This is a perfect start right here out of FI. They're going to be so happy with the way that this one has worked out. Like you said, 2 kills going over to the Eve, has already got those magic boots completed. It's exactly what you want, moving through this jungle even faster, doing a little bit of extra damage as well. Now going to begin working on those items. And as the Evelyn, we talked about how you can't fall behind. You haven't. You've put yourself in a good spot. This acceleration has to keep happening, though. As soon as FYI let this game go really late, you're not going to be in a good position whatsoever. Sure, you have a really tanky Mundo, but it's a Jinx. You know, you can get through tanky champions like that pretty easily. Jinx is very happy to just be hitting on the first champion in front of you. You're not necessarily looking to get into the backline straight away. Front to backing is the name of the game. And so, if you can keep this pressure up, if you can keep going with this sort of accelerated gameplay for FOI, then I think they're in a decently good chance of winning this one out. That being said, it's Kit, and sometimes they just win teamfights late on that they have no right to, and then they just end the game.
Yeah, but if you're FOI here, this feels like the start you wanted, this feels like the start you needed. This is the game that you have to win, right? And getting this Evelyn, these kills early game, those sorcerer shoes, allowing her to be so active on the map will feel so good, as well as the Kog'Maw getting out an early lead in the lane where the Blitzcrank should really be the determining factor. The fact that Faust is able to come down there and deny that, as well as give them a bit of a lead themselves, is just so huge for the team. And Marziah, mostly just soaking up pressure in the top lane, is down quite a bit of CS to the cannon, but, you know, range at the melee matchup, you're just trying to stall out till you get that one logs anyway.
You really are, and the fact that you haven't lost a couple of kills is always going to be a good sign. Gentleman Hero, so very well known for getting those solo kills, getting that massive pressure down in the top lane. Like you said, doing it in the CS, but not in the kills, it is at least going to be something. Striker, gonna head on towards these grubs, has basically done this every single game, has made those first grubs a massive priority. There is gonna be the response out of Forced, gonna bring the bot lane up as well to be able to pick up this Drake. And we're getting to see that Season 14 trade back and forth, as we always do. Drake for grubs, it depends on if you're able to get all 6. If it goes 3 for 3, then you definitely want to be on the side of getting that first Drake. However, oftentimes we have seen Striker be able to get all 6, and that just gives a massive amount of extra damage over to the team. Kennen can push waves very effectively, so can the Jinx, and also Striker, once again, looking to invade, is something that so far Force just hasn't been able to do.
I think when it's a Mountain Drake like this as well, you do feel quite good taking it, because of how much damage there is on the enemy team, because of the fact that you have somebody like the Mundo, like the Kog'Maw, who can stack defensive items. It does feel a little bit better. Just means you can't give up those 6 scrubs, because into a Jinx with resets, you give that 6 scrubs as well, that thing is ending the game the first time they win a team fight.
I mean, the Mundo just bopped a tower last game and took, what was it, 2 plates?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Polarizing gonna have to use that Fate Seal to be able to get away from the, you know, a lot of damage that you can put down as Igneous and Forced right there. So that's going to be a pretty big ult gone. It makes it a lot safer to play this lane right now as Igneous, so going to be happy with that one. As we are just 8 minutes into this game, but still quite a lot has happened. A lot less kills that we've seen previously, and a lot less kills for Kit. However, with a composition that scales as well as theirs does, I don't think they're going to be too badly worried about what's happened, because the gold is dead even.
Absolutely, yeah, and I mean, this is the best sort of position they've been in so far. Igneous here taking 2 tower shots, and the card still coming in now. Will just about secure the kill, so my apologies for caster cursing whatever was happening in the mid lane there, as I was talking about how well they started. This does put a little bit of a dampener on things, because now that jungle lead you got with those kills is slowed down quite heavily. You have a big CS lead on the Karthus and 1 kill dragging back, as well as the 2-stack Dark Seal. Evelyn, of course, not actually opting to go for that one yet, and now the Evelyn needs to start to speed things up now that you've hit level 6. Now that you've got that invisibility, you need to make things happen on the map.
Yeah, you really do. You need to take this early game lead that you managed to get for yourself as FI and keep going with it. Unfortunately, they were not quite able to. Now you see that Requiem coming down, picking up that first kill. It's kind of the dream situation, right? As Matthew is going to chase on fours onto Sitar, is going to be able to get away, but the delay on that recall is actually going to be pretty impactful. I think Force might end up having to come to support this bottom lane, potentially, to just stop this wave from being pushed under. Sitar has been forced to stay around. That's not going to be ideal. Really would have liked to have gotten that reset through here. Matthew and Redeem, though, need to be careful not to step too far forwards, because Forced is in the area. They do know that, though.
Yeah, they do know that they have spotted this one out, and I think now that the wave is shoved in, they will be happy to just sort of sit back, see a little bit of their pressure, maybe wait for a striker to get closer to this play. Obviously, no pinks in the area, so they have to just be as respectful of Faust as they physically can, as the Evelyn slips into the alcove and looks to make something happen. Blitzcrank might spot this one out, though. Does. will be able to just use the W speed away. Nothing else happening on this play just yet.
No, for the minute it has... hang on. If you hit a hook here, this could be big.
Faust, flashing away from the ultimate there. Does still have the hook available. Hasn't popped that one yet, but they have a wave to hide in. Faust in a bit of a sticky situation here. Doesn't have a wave to dodge into. The hook goes wide. Now Matthew flashless. Trying to get his way out, but they're not going to pursue a kill there. Striker, no ultimate. No Requiem available. Zeke does have his, and Sitar able to play a little bit of range here. 2 of those little Karthus seeds do land onto the Milio, however, chunking down to about 20%. And
hook back.
Faust, you might be looking to one-shot Striker, but don't have ultimate available, so we'll just stay out of vision for now, trying to heal up a bit with that passive. Matthew really still searching here, but looks like this one might just peter out for now. Faust, not quite over it.
Yeah, not quite as... If that hook had have landed, it could well have been a couple of kills going over to Kit. Still, Faust is going to sit in the wings. Doesn't have the
and
ultimate.
look, just land! Sake does have flash available, but not enough time to get it off through the silence. Faust flashing forward. They do get onto the ADC. This Neferi TP, if he can get in range of Matthew, it will be a 2-for-1 in the end. Igneous, though, not fast enough. Can he get the blast going to just get out of range?
Oh,
but W does land! Stalling it with that blast cone meant that Igneous was just allowed to get into range. Backside of that, ADC and support drop. A lot of summoners used both ways.
I feel so bad, unfortunately, for Matthew. Giving over a kill to Igneous is going to be huge. Still, you lose the teleport, so that is at least going to give a little bit of extra pressure over to Polarizing, who was able to keep his. But picking up kills onto a Neferi is huge. You want to get this dog ahead as quickly as possible. Striker now going to go for these grubs. If you could pick up all 6, like we said, that is going to be huge. Not just taking it away from the Mundo, but also giving some extra over. Polarizing, trying to chase on Zach. They're going to survive. Hopefully, we're going to get to, have a quick look at what was happening with that play in the bottom side. Yeah, Matthew, the fact that you hit that hook is huge. And Zach gets the heal, tries to survive through with the ult. It just does not work out. Because of the get excited, it's possible that you wouldn't have been able to survive right there as redeemed. They're not quite able to, and then Igneous gets in, gets that kill, and it's just another little bit of gold, another little bit of pressure going over to FLY. Every time it feels like they're slipping away from this game, they find another way to just keep themselves in it, keep themselves relatively even, but relatively even isn't what you want to see. Have a look at the individual gold between the two teams right here, and there's a couple of places where it's relatively big. Top lane, Gentleman Hero's got quite a decent gap for himself. Everywhere else, though, it's quite even. It really is just the top lane that's making up the bulk of this 1,000 gold lead for Kit. And so, if you are FOI, where are you playing around to try to get yourself even more of an advantage?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they're up 3 kills, but at the same time, you're down 1,500 gold. The Karthus just got his Blackfire Torch and 6 grubs. So you do have the 2 Drake advantage at the very least. You can play through the soul as your possible win con, but you're down gold pretty much everywhere, even if it is just a little bit. And like we said, this is now a Jinx with 6 Void grubs. You lose a team fight, you could lose so much of your base, and the game becomes so volatile now to a single flip of a team fight around a Drake, around a Baron, around any of these objectives.
Absolutely, you need to just keep this game as far ahead as possible, unfortunately, and it really isn't happening. That being said, once again, Mosiah, full build. Once you get that Warmogs, it is so incredibly difficult to bully out a Mundo in the same way. Gentleman Hero, during the time that they were strong, though, was able to get themselves quite a decent lead. Is going to be a massive CS lead as well for Striker. Force trying to even that back up a little bit, steals away these chickens at least. Still, they're going to be down by a good 40 CS at this point, which was pretty bad as the Evelyn. Still 2-on-2, not going to be the end of the world. Working right now on picking up that Shadow Flame. I think potentially that would give you a good amount of extra burst damage. So tricky to execute these fights though.
For some reason thought that Rocket was actually going to steal that. I don't know what happened to my brain there, but if it stepped a little bit to the left, it might have just taken that away. Been a little bit cheeky. That's Super Mega Death Rocket. Striker now positioning up alongside this Herald. This is the one time you kind of feel good getting Herald with those 6 grubs. It means that your push can be so influential, just popping those Void Knights onto the towers as well as the burn. Was that you do have the support up here just to guarantee this Jinx. Not much real threat as Faust has based as well, so it should be a pretty easy pickup for them as well. This Mundo a bit overextended here, so if he stays around too much longer, they could look to walk up into the top lane after just taking. Matthew already starting to slowly posture, it seems, but Gentleman Hero choosing to base instead, so nothing more will come of this. Most members just basing. Hextech map, though, will make this a lot more volatile, especially with the invisibility of the Evelyn being able to run around the map with the Banshees and Sork shoes and those portals.
just makes it that much easier right now to be able to get around the map, get back onto the map quicker as well if you do end up dying. Often that means a lot for the supports who go down early on in team fights, and if they go long enough are able to get themselves back into the game. Igneous and Force, two assassins, haven't been able to play around each other too much in this game so far. I would love to see them try to hard commit onto anybody around. They may well be going for Gentleman Hero right here. They have a lot of damage between them.
They do, absolutely, but does have sums and ult available, so I think they've just decided to step away from this one. Maybe try and find this Blitzcrank who's in their side of the jungle now. The Evelyn slipping in through the backside of the tri-bush. No pink wards available here, so Matthew could be in a little spot of danger. Does have flash available, but does get in immediately. The Banshees is able to stop the silence and the knock-up. Very good pick-up there. It pretty much guarantees that kill with the execute from the ultimate. Faust now will be able to walk away from this one. Another kill picked up for the Evelyn, but what can they do with this? That's the main thing. Looking for the Jinx now, by able to get Summoner out of this ADC. Flanking a tower shot, but not much more, and I think they will be happy with this for now. Posturing for a possible die, but Striker enough to keep them away.
Yeah, should be able to dissuade this one from coming through, although that being said, Forster is just going to sit in this bush. If Redeem steps up, they are just going to die, and like you said, that Banshee's going to be huge. I wasn't sure if that was going to be the first item pick up. I like it though in this game. It gives you quite a lot of ability to go in situations where you wouldn't potentially be able to anyway. Redeem, Matthew.
Faust dodging that. Does get spotted out eventually. Oh, and that might be bad for the Evelyn now, getting hooked up under tower, but isn't able to one-shot the Jinx anyway. Flash was available for Redeem, but I don't think he expected that to come out. Faust in the end flashing backwards with no CC left from the Blitzcrank, who maybe they chained too much of that together, meaning that the Evelyn was able to just get off that full combo before dying.
Oh, this is going to be an all-in as well right here out of Igneous. Goes straight in onto Striker, who's able to flash away. Should die to the dogs and the burn. There we go. It is going to be the big shutdown picked up right there for Igneous. And be very happy with this one. And hey, this game is not going anywhere near as well for Kit as we have seen a lot of these previous ones. And I get it. Out of Kit, you're in a comfortable position. You're being pretty happy with the way that this has gone, and you're still with a 700 gold lead. I'm not saying that Kit are out of this game. Absolutely not. You can never count them out of the game. But to be fair, you do have a lot of prize money on the line here, and I think potentially more than that, the completely undefeated run. They didn't lose a single game in Swiss. They didn't lose a single game in the playoffs. They've now won 2 in a row here. If they can clean this one out cleanly, then it will be a miracle of a run right here out of Germany, out of Kit SCY, showing that they truly are both the most dominant esports country when it comes to university and the most dominant team from there.
Absolutely, and I mean, it has been fantastic on them so far, but I will say about this game, even with all these assassins getting this many kills back to back to back, they're still down gold, right? Which is truly impressive from Kit, because it shows how much control they have over the game. Even when they give up these kills, even when they're down 6 kills, they're up pretty much 5,000 gold right now. And picking up these 2 towers now, it's moving nearer to 1,000 gold difference. Faust does find a way onto Polarizing here. They block the Fate Sealed, and they pretty much one-shot the Yone. Flash comes through from Marzaya. Cleaver does land. I think he'll be able to catch up here to Yone. Tries to dodge away, but that is one shutdown picked up by the Mundo. Striker now, no flash available, caught between a rock and a hard place. Faust will try and dodge out on all these Qs, ulting away to make sure he doesn't get low enough for the Requiem to kill. We'll heal up with that passive, and a double kill for the Mundo. The tank in a game like this can become very, very dangerous with so much damage on either side. Flashing forward, Sitar tries to get one last ult onto Matthew. Does land onto Redeemed. 2 very, very low members of Kit here. The game is slowly falling apart. The Nefiri able to get close enough to pop that ult. Redeemed has nowhere to run. That Jinx will be dead one way or another. Matthew trying to come in to save his ADC. I think he needs to just leave to try and cut their losses. Gentleman Hero on the side. Flash, ult, forward. The lightning strikes onto
my
3.
lord.
Takes them all low, but none have died yet. The Ignite taking on the Sitar. Life steal will not be enough to save him. Gentleman Hero trying to walk away from the fight, but 2 Qs. Nicely placed from Igneous. Will pick up 2 kills. Sake should survive with the bubble shield on himself. Kills trading back and forth. Blocks are breakdown numbers.
That was huge, huge damage right there. And I love the flash forwards out of Gentleman Hero. It's a very Gentleman Hero play right there to go, hey, I can make this one happen. But you've already lost out onto your ADC. You don't have any follow-up here. You managed to get at least the kill on Sitar, the slow burn through the Ignite. But like I said, this game not feeling like it's going particularly well right now for Kit. 3-12. And the fact you are still only about 300 gold, 200 gold up is crazy. Actually, it's beyond crazy. It's criminal right now out of FOI. I would love to see individually the gold where all of this is sitting, because the fact that you're not down massively when you're behind by this many kills is so insane. Polarizing. Gonna jump away, and actually that's a good hook.
Hook lands onto Morzai. Now they're only trying to find a way in. Does
Fate
land the Fate
Sealed.
Sealed as well as a big Q. He's able to pick up one. I think he'll be okay with that trade 1-for-1 here. Just getting a bit of gold in his back pocket. Can they catch up to Sitar now? He did use the flash in the last fight. The Kennen Q does go wide. Zaps both missing.
Forced
so he might be
behind,
able to
forced
waddle away
behind.
from this one. Forced invisible in the back of this fight. The hook goes wide, and now maybe an angle onto Redeemed, who doesn't have flash available. Does have the barrier to try and dodge some of the damage. Charm does land. Faust gets over the wall. Does have the ultimate, but the barrier pops, so no execute coming through. Neferi flying in 1v4. Picks up 2 with the initial engage. And now the Kennen ult is enough. The trade back, just one shutdown goes onto the Carthage Gentleman hero, trying to do as much as he can, and both teams will disengage from this fight.
That felt like an even fight, though. It felt like an even fight, despite the fact that the kills are just so insanely far apart. This is part of why I just think that having the kills as the big thing that you see at the top of the screen really is a lot less important. So we see just the amount of damage that you could do right there out of both Force and Igneous is insane. If every time Igneous goes in, they get 2 kills and then die, I'm going to be perfectly happy with that trade. And this is a little bit of a sidebar, but I think this game is a great illustration of the point. I think it's unfortunate for new viewers of League of Legends that when you jump in, what you see at the top of the screen in the big bold numbers is the kills, because it means so much less, hook goes wide, than the gold does. The fact that the gold is even in this game tells you so much more about the way that this game has actually played out. That being said, FOI, they are being proactive in this game. This is exactly what we wanted to see out of these guys. I'm loving, absolutely loving the way that they're playing. I wish we could have seen this FOI in the first 2 games, but I'm glad they finally showed up now.
They have a gold lead, Bloxer. It took them a 10-kill lead as well as getting some towers, but they finally have a gold lead. They are also 3 minutes away from Hextech Soul, right? One of the best souls in the entire game. Could completely change the course of the game, especially with 2 assassins. That extra burst you get on top of that, as well as the slow, could be completely nuclear. Easy. Morzai coming in from the side here. They will just force down this tier 1 mid lane. Not going to commit too much more onto Redeem, though, as they just walk away from this one. Opening up the map very nicely for them. 2 minutes 50 on that soul. There's the huge damage coming in from the Nefir here. Fate Seal does land. EQ as well. They'll need to get the shield max health. Trading back. Polarizing every spell hit. I think Igneous thought it's fine, I can just tank this to face, but clearly that was not the case as Faust looking for something onto Redeemed. Doesn't have flash available, but not enough damage with the full combo. Matthew will die instead. A kill onto Sitar. Redeemed just evading that artillery barrage. Striker will have to flash. Oh. Okay. Jeez, I'm dying.
The fight's just not stopped. Gentleman Hero may well go for this one. Has got the ultimate. Is sat in between 4 members. Is going to pop onto that storm. Takes a single member with him right now. Morzai not going to die. They're more than tanky enough to survive. And that could well be the Baron for FOI. They've ended up right by it. You have got enough damage between you, Zayak, and Forced. Feels kind of like Force doesn't really want it. It's instead going to go and try play Gatekeeper, keep Striker out of this one. He's going to be able to pick up that kill as well, so there's now no Smite available. TP coming in as well out of Igneous.
Well, Redeem trying to find a way into this Baron fight. The TP coming in from his teammates, but he might have been caught out on the backside of this by Igneous. The Nefiri trying to do as much as he can to this ADC, but Redeem does survive. No bleed because the double hit did not land, which means they have to peel off the Baron now as well. I don't think they can take it for themselves, though. Still no jungler, still no top laner, no TPs available, but they stop the Baron and they kill the Nefiri. Blocks are these teams have me on my knees. I'm crying in the corner of my room, coughing up blood, coughing up everything. Goodness me.
My lord. And have a look, ladies and gentlemen, and all in between, at the gold lead. It's once again in the favor of KSC. You just cannot escape these guys. Thank you very much for showing us this individual gold, because it's fascinating to see where the gaps are. There's a pretty big one in the bottom lane in the favor of FOI, but everywhere else has small, slight advantages. After everything that Igneous has been able to do across the whole map, is still down by 40 CS, and that means you get a little bit of a lead for Polarizing. We saw in the 1v1, now you end up winning out onto these. And we said it during the draft phase, right? It's all about that initial burst somebody down out of FOI, whereas it's about a wombo combo teamfight out of Kit. And now we've gotten away from the skirmish point of the game, and now we're in this much bigger teamfight section of the game. That is where the composition out of KSCY is coming forward. Germany, they're going to move themselves towards this Baron. And with Forced as far away as he is right now, this one could just gone. It's such a fast take that you have for Kit.
You do have the Jinx with the 50% crit here. Those Chompers will buy them a little bit of time as Sitar doesn't want to walk straight through them. It's been taken very, very low. They have no smite, so the Baron will go the way of Kit. But what do they do after this? The reset comes in for the Jinx. Pumping on Desire. Flash is the Gentleman Hero. The Fate Sealed. All onto Sitar. Gets the ADC at the start of the fight. I think they'll be happy with that kill for themselves now. They have to find a way to get into this soul before we need to get down there and take this dragon right now as all 5 members are based away. If they can get the soul, it's still something.
But
It's
the
still
portals.
a positive. But those Hextech portals will allow them to come in a little bit faster. This Eve needs to be quicker. They have no ADC to chunk this one down. Igneous, not on the Drake. He's trying to look for people. Let's see that Baron fight, just how it transpired really quick.
It's just going to be a great Fate Sealed right there getting into the back line. As soon as Ditto's dead, that's a ton of the damage gone. It is going to be a big fight though around this Drake.
Back into the dragon fight. Striker does land the smite, so they don't get the soul. Picking up a kill as well onto the Neferi. They're turning their tails and running for the hills. Morzaya will get away. Does have that passive still available. Faust looking just for something on the backside so they don't get soul, but will probably pick up the skill onto Gentleman's Hero here. Just the consolation prize at the end of it all. No Nash, no Drake. Kit have done it again.
Have indeed. It feels like they have got themselves back into this game. They're now up by about 2,000 gold, and this is the way the Kit play. They were never really behind. I would love to see a graph of the kills compared to a graph of the gold, because the gold graph would have been super close the whole way through up until about this point where there's beginning to be a bit of a separation for Germany. And Croatia, they've been doing so well. They've had an incredible tournament. Should be very proud of themselves. The only games they've ended up losing have been to Kit. Like, that's not anything to be ashamed about, and the way that they have taken Kit to the brink in this game has been very impressive, but the fact that you don't get the Hextech Soul in that fight is terrifying. I guess potentially it's good because you don't get that Elder Drake onto the map as quickly, and, you know, you don't really want to pull up a fight for the Elder Drake at this point. I don't necessarily know that you're going to win it, but at the same time, it would have been a massive amount of extra damage, extra slows. It makes you even more effective as Sitar. But it's so difficult to play as a Kog'Maw, right? When there is all of this backline engage, backline dive that you've got. Polarizing specifically sniping him out with that Fate Sealed, sort of just sealed the deal around that Baron fight.
No, it definitely did, and I think... I mean, look, you have a 609 Evelyn who's capable of one-shotting your carries, right? The problem is, there's not much space being created around her. This Kog'Maw isn't strong enough just yet, doesn't really have those defensive items coming in to save him. Obviously, the last fight, a bit unfortunate, had both solo laners just in his face, landing both Old Scott nuke before anything could even happen, but it's kind of easy for them to get onto him because there's no one to create that much space except for the Mundo, but the Mundo can't really stop a cannon. If the cannon wants to get in, the cannon will just run straight past you. So what they have to try and find now is Eve needs to get these picks before the fight start, I think. Picks like this, for example, onto General Hero. Zhonya's instantly didn't get the ult off like he wanted to. Ulting backwards here, the super mega death rocket does come in, flashed away, but the execute coming in from the Karthus instead. There's too many ults, Faust. And that is a big shutdown onto the Karthus, so that Evelyn doing what I suggested but didn't work out was the wrong target. Polarizing now to seeing forward. Try and force down this tower. They do have all the Void Mites in the burn as well, so it will be quite easy for them to take. And now, slowly, this lead is becoming gargantuan for Kit.
That feels so unbelievably bad right now for FOI. Forced had to try to get something going. If you can kill Gentleman Hero there, you are in a much better spot to try to play out these fights. But I think at this point in the game, you really need to play together with Igneous. Both of you will be able to assassinate the little rat in the top lane. Doesn't work out. You are able to pull a couple of ults through, blowing the flash out of Redeemed, and then Striker just pops the Requiem, picks up another kill, and that is going to be even more gold into the back pocket of this Karthus. 3 items completed, and we'll get to see the sadness once again. You have to blow the ult at just the wrong time for Forced, unfortunately, so you don't manage to get the execute going. It's just so unfortunate. It feels like Kit are inevitable.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of the problems with Eve this game, is that you buy the Banshees, which is very good for you, but that also means that you don't get the Zhonya's, so you have all these different things which you have to kind of evade, and you've got too many impactful ultimates, so what was a 1v1 turned into basically a 3v1 just because she had to use so much to get away from everything else that was being thrown at her, and that shutdown going over to the Karthus does feel very, very bad. Him sitting on 3 items and a rod now will be looking to complete a 4th item pretty soon. Faust down 2 levels as well, right? So even with all those kills, your jungler's not actually really in a position to individually carry this game unless you can somehow find Redeemed somewhere.
Yeah, indeed. If you can get that initial kill onto a Redeemed or onto a Gentleman Hero, these fights become significantly easier for Croatia. But at the same time, it has been proved time and time again that actually trying to get an engage, get an initial kill down onto anybody from Kit is so hard. I'm going to pose a question though, just quickly. Do you reckon Kit win this game still down in kills?
I think they might, because there's going to be probably I feel like there's 2 team fights left in this game, and I think they're not going to win those team fights 9-0, right?
Yeah.
I think they're going to lose at least a few members, so I think probably there's a world where they win this game being down kills, and even being down Drakes, which feels quite bad, but oh dear, Marziah being caught out here, taken down pretty low. The hook does go wide, and all the members choosing just to disengage right now, but Matthew getting engaged on the ult, hits onto 3, but everyone was full HP, so didn't do too much. Big ultimate in here from Gentleman Hero, landing onto 2, but
The Requiem!
So no stun, the Requiem lands, taking 1 life, fate sealed, hitting nobody, but the health bars are still dropping left, right, and center. 2 members dead on either side. Kog'Maw does fall now after his passive explodes, and Marziah running for the hills is full HP. Might just have to try and turn this one. There's no way you're getting to safety. Polarizing now. Actually, be left in a 1v1, so now I'm not sure about the flash away there. Marziah might have been able to just turn that one and fight the Blitzcrank in the 1v1, but choosing to save his life instead. And this fight still went the way of Kit. 2
now.
members for 3. Marziah healing with the Warmogs. Turns the corner. Matthew, you silly boy, you should have known. Matthew will give his life with the red buff. They do pick up the Drake at least, Kit. But the trade 3 kills for 3. And the tier 2 just fall. Marziah! What are you doing? What are you looking for?
This is great. It stops any potential for a Baron. It stops you from just being able to play this fight out like you want to. If Striker can space out Marziah, then you're going to be fine. If you end up with Marziah on top of you, you're going to die. Teleport coming through.
Definitely see they can't get the knock-up in time. He's just out like that. Smile on his face. Corporate Mundo knows best. Employing his capitalist tactics to slide away from that one. And I mean, he's actually very strong, right? If you look at the items coming in now, alongside that Mountain Drake, if he finishes his gargoyles, that is 3 defensive items on top of a Warlord, making him an incredible force to be reckoned with. But look, in this team fight, it was the ults that made the difference, I feel like. It was the Super Mega Death Rocket, the Requiem, back to back to back, all this damage coming through. So that even though they didn't play the fight necessarily perfectly, they just got so much AoE damage and it was impossible.
They really did. If you hit the Fate Sealed as well out of Polarizing, then that team fight is a complete stomp. Unfortunately, it does go wide. But something very interesting to note is, like you said, this window's actually in a really good spot. 5, 1, and 4 isn't down in CS either. Top lane was a bit of an issue throughout the rest of this game, but Marziah has really been able to clean that one up. The Mundo looking absolutely excellent. I think if we do end up going to a game 4, it could well be a pickup that we see either banned or grabbed again, because I really like the way that Marziah has played this. Is it going to be enough to be able to keep the team in this game? I don't know about that one, I really don't. With the Baron up and available, we're likely going to see another big fight. Straight up 5v5 fights, they just don't work for FOI. You need to find that pick. I want to see Igneous Force use ults, use everything on the same champion. I don't really care which champion it is at this point, to get themselves a 4v5 lead for this team fight, because I think at that point we will end up seeing a much closer team fight than these past couple, where it's felt like Kit have been in a significant advantage.
Definitely. I think the problem here for Foy is if you lose the team fight and get aced, you probably lose the game off that, right? If all 5 members drop and 2 or 3 survive on the side of Kit, you probably can just lose the game off that, as Baron is started up here. It's completely down to Faust to try and steal this one. His teammates aren't close enough to force a fight just yet, but looks like Kit don't want to flip this one. They know that the Evelyn does have priority of the steal with the ult and smite combo. Maybe looking to this combo onto Gentleman Hero here. Does land everything except the ultimate. No, time immediately stunned. Couldn't get the ultimate off. And Gentleman Hero claims Faust's life. This is exactly what they didn't need, because now this Baron is just free for the taking.
What do you do? What do you do when the Kennen's able to just pop the ult and kill you quicker than you can? Kennen's not meant to be an assassin. The Eve certainly is. Does result in a Baron going over. Polarizing is surrounded by 3 people. Might well take somebody with him. Isn't quite able to. That is going to be a pretty big takeaway of a Baron. You would have loved to have had the Baron on the split pushing Yone. So that is at least going to be something gotten back for FOI. But this is Kit extending their lead. They're now up by about 7,000 gold. Could potentially pick themselves up the next 2 Drakes if we get to that point, which would be a huge advantage. We are going to see what ended up happening to Polarizing. Does so much damage right there, but doesn't have the ulti, so without the Fate Sealed, isn't going to be able to capitalize on that double knock-up that they were able to get. And I think we are probably maybe one, like you said, maybe 2 fights away from this game closing out. I thought it would be less, but all of a sudden it feels like FOI, they've been able to find 1 or 2 punishes onto a mistake out of Kit. I now need to see them win out on a proactive play that they make.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't really count what just happened as a team fight anyway. That was just one member getting caught out and then 1 member getting caught out. So I feel like, again, the next team fight will probably result in either Gentleman Hero ending this game with like some ridiculous 5-man or never any of that. But I think they're in a very, very bad spot here, Foy. The gold lead is becoming insurmountable. They weren't able to pick up the soul, so there's no pressure of like an Elder Drake win with the Evelyn steal. There's no way for them to ever get into the pit, because Kit can just endlessly sort of kite away from the Nash or from the Drake if they want to. And again, if they win a team fight, they will just end with this Jinx. It is so late in the game. Of Faust now looking for Redeemed on the side. I'm not sure if you should have used the W. They're flashing forward. Faust is not able to hit any important targets and forced to ult away now. Ultimate will go on cooldown 30 seconds before the Soul Drake spawns. Redeemed now. They also have double sum still available, and they can just pump onto this window as much as they want. No answer available. All flashes except the Yone available on the side of Kit, as well as all ultimates, means they can just engage on this if they truly want to.
Are looking for that big engage moment. The poke coming through, and you are losing quite a lot of health right now as Kit, so that's not going to be ideal for this team fight. What can Force do? What can Igneous do? It's going to be all about finding those ults.
Another Gentleman Hero flashes forward. 2-man ultimate. Kills the first, the second should die to the card as it comes down. The shields come in, but Fate sealed onto 3 to make sure that the fight, which was starting to look lost, could still be won. Faust picks up one on the backside. Morzaya is the last man left standing, but surely there is nothing he can do in the face of a Blitzcrank, a Jinx, and a Karthus. He runs back to his base. All 3 members still quite low, but the resets coming in. The Warmog ceiling matching it as well. They might not be able to end into this behemoth that stands before them, but it is another one team fight. They'll pick up a 3rd Hextech Dragon, and there is one team fight left in it still.
I mean, if you manage to get a full ace, a full clean ace right here as Kit, they would still end this game down in kills. It's very likely that right now Kit are going to end this game down in kills, bar some crazy shenanigans happening. It doesn't end the game, but it feels like this one is as good as. Sure, the back and forth, it's pretty close in a lot of these fights, but with these ultis hitting out of Kit, with the flash forwards out of Gentleman Hero, you just do so much damage. That death cap shredding through people. And what can you do to make this one work if you keep trying to straight up 5v5? The straight up 5v5 isn't working. You have got to get yourself involved in a fight through elsewhere. Unfortunately, we are going to jump into a quick pause. We just want to extend the life of this game, you know? Not certain, obviously, that it is going to end up being a victory for FOI, so we maybe don't get another game afterwards. I want to see more League of Legends. At least this pause extends things a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're just thinking, what can they do to try and win this one? You pause the game. That's what you do. You pause the game, you regroup, you think, guys, this game was in our hands. We finally had a goal. We finally had all these things going for us. What went wrong? What can we try and fix? Here's my issue now. The Evelyn can't kill anyone in just like outright 1v1 trying to find a pick. It seems like it's almost impossible for her right now. She can't kill any of the members in the side lane. She tries to get onto Jinx. There's 4 members who collapse within like 3 seconds to save her life.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really have the damage to get through that. On the other side of things, she is really good at the end of fights, picking people off and making sure they can't end. At the end of that fight, that game was completely over, but Faust and Igneous picked up 2 kills right near the end, just to stall out enough for Morzaya to be able to walk away, to be able to heal up, to be able to do all these things. So the next team fight obviously will probably decide the game. I think for Foy to stand a chance, they can't just fight this 5v5. I don't see a way that they win that in just a straight out brawl like that, unless somehow they land everything, because the ultimates are way too impactful from Kit. The Cannon, the Yone, the Karthus, and the Jinx. You hit 2 out of any 4 of those, and you pretty much kill all 5.
Yeah, it really does feel like trying to go in for that straight up 5v5 is unfortunately a pretty quick road to losing this game. Still, there are chances, you know, if you do straight up 5v5, it's not been that they're getting completely clean aced every single time, they're still taking members with them, and this Mundo has gotten to the point where he is basically unkillable. You need to play elsewhere though, you need to find that initial bit of a pick, but it's been really difficult to do so, mainly because everybody on Kit is just sat on top of each other. They're not splitting up, they are not allowing you to get these opportunities to get on top of any of them, and it's just so... It's so unfortunate right here for FOI that Kit are just so good at the game. They know where to sit, they know how to play this one out. Sure, it's not been clean. This is possibly the least clean game I have ever seen Kit play, but it doesn't necessarily matter if you end up lifting the trophy and taking home that massive prize pool. We are going to jump back into the game right here. 37 minutes into this one. The fact that this one's nearly gone to 40 minutes is crazy. The fact that Kit SE may end up winning this one out down in kills, also crazy. And if we want to just add to all of the insane things, there's our 150 CS lead in the jungle for Striker.
Yeah, and I think Foy have shown us better this game. I think they've shown us their best so far this series, but that still has proven to so far not be enough. As we see, Polarizing here just looking for something on the side of things. Has an angle for the Fate Shield, maybe is just dealing a little bit of damage. The Faust still has the Banshee Shield available and healing up with their passive as well. So nothing happening out of this. Polarizing trying to run a little bit, but will heal up as well with the life steal. This next 5v5 will probably choose a winner for this game as Look lands onto the only target they currently be out. Or one of the only two.
It is unfortunate that you land it onto the Mundo, but still getting that spell shield off of him is going to be very useful. His tower going down incredibly quickly, is going to survive on a little bit of remaining HP, but the next minion wave is on its way in. To be honest, Redeem could probably just step up, tank a couple of turret shots and pick this one up. Indeed, it is going to fall. They're just looking for one more fight. They want to close this one out. They want to be the champions.
Hook lands onto Morzine, and that's your only tank gone within 3 seconds of the start of the fight. Faust does land the ultimate onto 2, onto 3. Fate Seal does catch him out on the backside of the fight though. The Requiem comes in, chunking 2 massively. Super Mega Death Rocket gets another reset for Redeemed, and it might be as clean as a 5-for-1 kit. We had our doubts this game. One more kill does go the way of the Kog'Maw, but they are on their victory march. Not a single game dropped in the playoffs. 1-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 3-0. Kit are the undefeated champions of the UEM Playoffs 2024.
What an incredible performance it has been out of Kit. Sure, that last game wasn't the cleanest that we've ever seen out of them, but they are well-deserving champions. Champions of the University Esports Masters 2024 Finals for League of Legends is such a great thing to be able to say about these guys, again, because they have been 2-time champions previously. They didn't even make it to the tournament last year. They are back, and they're looking better than ever. What an incredible performance. And it's not just that this university's great. A load of these players also were there, still playing when they got those previous titles. 3 times champions of University Esports in Europe is just insane to be able to say. Massive congratulations to Kit. Now, obviously, we're going to be talking about them a lot. Well deserved. I think we have to say a final couple of words about FOI, because they had a great tournament. Only games that they lost were going over to Kit. There's nothing to be ashamed of about that.
Yeah, no, there definitely isn't. And I think they showed us some really, really good sides of their gameplay. And it's a way, it's a shame, because I think that third game really, really was theirs at one point. Even though the gold lead wasn't necessarily in their favor the entire time, it felt like they had control. It felt like they were punishing people. It felt like they were, at the very least, scaring Kit in a way, you know, and forcing them to make plays they wouldn't normally make and forcing them into mistakes. And I think a large part of that was due to, like we said, shuffling the draft a bit and, you know, making some changes and just making things a little bit different than they normally would. So they showed a very good side of themselves, but again, at the final hurdle, it just wasn't enough. And that is down to really how good Kit have been and how unstoppable Kit have been.
Absolutely. It is an unfortunate situation right there for FOI, but I think they should be very, very proud of themselves. Runners-up in this tournament is incredible. And KSC, they just felt indomitable. They were so, so strong. Obviously, we've talked you through the games. We are going to come on over to our analysts to take you through what it was that Kit were able to do to win this third game and make them the UEM champions of this year.
First off, congratulations to Kit for a 3-0. Wanted to give our flowers a bit to FOI for the start of the game, how bloody they made it, the advantages they got, and really highlight what really turned the game, which was this Baron kind of swipe under their noses. So the main thing here is the Nefiri dying gives us a basing opportunity on the side of Foy, and as we continue on here, we see the lane assignments for Foy are going towards the Dragon. Now, with Baron up, they don't quite know the damage, but Karthus and Yone and Jinx can do Baron pretty quickly. So the most important thing to do is to get information. And the best way to get information is through the mid wave, right? Right now, there's no wards on the map. Emilio has 3 wards, and is the only way that he's able to get that information is for them to force the enemy team to show. And the way that they're going to do that is always going to be through the waves first. They briefly see 3 people mid, then they see no one bot, and they see no one top. So the reality is that they have to use mid wave, they have to use their blue trinkets in order to get as much information as possible. By having Nefiri show on bot wave instead of be with the team, while Mundo is on bot with TP and able to defend accordingly, we see that they don't use the waves for information, for getting the correct information, and they get bamboozled and they lose the Baron. Even after losing the Baron, they also lose a death, and it snowballs from there because they're unable to capitalize on the time used by Kit to get the Baron in order to secure the dragon. So this was kind of the theme, I think, for this whole series, is that FOI really tries to make a play before the waves even give them the information they need to make the best play possible. We saw that in multiple instances in this series. I think this is a very good example of that, and also how they throw their leads and a major weakness of theirs.
I think one of the important things as a team to bounce back from losses like these is to look at what exactly made you lose throughout the games and what you can do better for next year, because obviously there can only ever be one winner, but it's mostly about how you bounce back from this. And if you realize as Foy what your greatest mistakes were and what Kit's greatest strengths were in this series, it would definitely be the way that Kit handled the way that they approached the fights. And how they manipulated the wave so that they would always have a good situation to fight. Because we can look at one situation here where Foy actually did it correctly, where they actually managed to get in this one they managed to get man advantage, and whenever Foy would get man advantage and they can actually push out one side. They can push out one side wave here. Muno just push top wave. He's able to just push it deep, and he's able to just move mid lane, and then they can take the tower. That's when they can actually play the game, because Evelynn as a stealth champion just does a lot of other stealth champions like Nocturne work, because you don't actually see them. They can engage from miles away. It's important to realize that if you have champions like these, that you need to capitalize on the fact that the enemy team will not know where your jungler is, and you will be able to push your lane. So you will always be able to push 2 lanes, whereas the enemy team can only push the lane where their jungler is currently. So they really needed to capitalize on that more, make sure that they will be able to push all the side lanes where their junglers are not, and then through man advantage make sure that they get objectives just like they did in this moment, because there were a lot of times in the late game where they would be a little bit lost in regards to where they're gonna be. So they would just send everyone mid lane. So Foy would just send everyone mid lane, and then Evelynn would try to make some kind of hero play. So like here, for example, they're 5 mid. They're not utilizing any of their advantages of having champions that are able to push side and then move mid afterwards. They just go mid as 5, and they seem almost like they needs to do some kind of desperation play with their Evelynn, because Evelynn is obviously their strongest member gold-wise after, or in comparison. So I believe that for next year, if they really want to focus on what they need to do better and how they can beat Kid in a best of 5, it would definitely be how they manage their lanes and how they approach fights, and just take it a little bit more slowly, and just make sure that they just really understand how the lanes work and which lane to push to get which objective.
Yeah, how they use waves to get information, and then how they use that information to fight, I think is a big disconnect for them in this series. And again, shout out to Kit for a great performance. I think they did a better job of that across the whole series, as well as we saw in some of the previous analytical segments, the way they move around the map and the way they're able to get advantages in the lane phase as well, through good coordination with their jungler. Yep, and that's it from us.
University Esports Masters Finals!
It's a wonderful thing. I feel privileged about the situation because we were able to achieve something and we are traveling the country, visiting the country and playing the live final.
Our experience, I met a lot of new people that come from so many different places.
Just being with the team and having fun together and actually trying our best to win the competition.
For the first game of the Amazon University Esports Masters Final.
Let's
And it's category 5 for Booman Academy. An absolute hurricane unleashed onto AIX. And they cannot withstand the Dr. Booman Academy are your 2023 Amazon University Esports Masters champions. And it seems as if Amsterdam dips in Norway. Only going to take one shimmer on either side to crown this one, and Fabso may just have found it.
Congratulations on your win. As a team now, you get to claim your prize.
Still manages to get it deep. The objective has been wrong and second player, they're walking one by one into their graves. Wings Club finally, after a momentary pause.
And to all of you watching at home or wherever you might be, we are all grateful that Amazon University Esports Masters exists.
Welcome back, everybody, for the final time of this 2024 University Esports Masters. It was an incredible day today. We were able to crown our champions of KSC White from Germany. They end up 3-0 up against FOI from Croatia. It was a really incredible series back and forth, and I mean, I had such fun. Did you enjoy it too?
Absolutely, it's been fantastic, especially for me. First time doing UEM and first time, obviously, being here at the finals. It was a fantastic series to watch. Obviously, ended up being a 3-0 for Kit. I would have loved to see a longer series, to be obviously here with you for a bit longer, to be with the fans a bit longer, to be with everyone a bit longer, but still, fantastic series to cast. It was a great time, and congratulations again to Kit for that win.
Absolutely was, but we're going to be jumping into an interview right now. We are being joined by the wonderful striker here from Germany's team. Amazing performance out of you guys. How are you feeling about this one?
Of course, we feel great. This was our goal, to get the third title, and this year we finally managed it. Once again, we didn't lose a single game, I think, so we were also quite dominant, even though some games this final were like harder than other games in the tournament for sure.
I mean, it was truly a brilliant performance for you guys from the very beginning to the very end, and I would actually like to start from the beginning. Coming into this tournament, the previous year, you guys didn't actually make it to the tournament. The year before, you ended up falling short, not even making it to the final four. So coming into this one, were you confident that you were going to be able to once again reclaim your title and do it undefeated?
Well, I think our biggest obstacle this year was getting to be the Germany representative, because we had to play against the last year's champion, the Booman Academy, and they're a really strong team. But we beat them twice, so I guess we earned our spot, and we knew that this was probably the biggest hurdle, and yeah, we overcame it, and then we were pretty confident that we are a really strong team. So yeah, we are probably a better team than the last 2 years, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing I wanted to focus on specifically was that third game, because that felt like definitely the closest game, at least for the start. They found ways to sort of create advantages, which they didn't in the first two games. And I wanted to know what your philosophy was around how you sort of come back for that. You were never really that far behind, at least in terms of gold, in terms of XP, all these things. But when you have, you know, two Fed assassins running around the map, what's the philosophy behind, okay, calm down, bring them back together, you know, how do you get back into that winning mentality in a game like that?
Well, I think, yeah, we had a really hard time that game, because I think that draft was kind of better than ours. We couldn't quite, we had Ignite on top, we couldn't quite push the advantage there. I mean, we were 20 CS up at Mundo scaling. I was ahead in CS of Evelyn, but she got kills, and also it was really hard for us to play, because Blitzcrank couldn't do a lot, because the Mundo can tank a hook. Evelyn had the Banshee's Rush, which at first I thought weird, but I think it was kind of smart actually. And then Nafil was also pretty good into the game, so we just looked for maybe picks, and then we used... I mean, we came back maybe even the second game, maybe just like rush a Nash, and then that works. And then we kind of back into the game. Once we have Nash, we can like accelerate the game really quickly, because I think we have pretty good macro. We were also in the third game probably better on side lane, so we pushed out Vanish to side lane as well. And yeah, I think, and then we had some good team fights in the end as well, so probably that's how we came back.
Yeah, fantastic. And obviously, last thing from me, you guys have just won 2,500 euros to your names, so 500 each, or it depends. I don't know how you guys are splitting it, if you're giving the subs some money as well, if you're giving the coach some money as well. Either way, fantastic prize for you guys. I just wanted to know a little bit, is there something special you're going to spend that on? Are you guys going to have like a little team dinner? Are you guys going to have like a party together? Is there anything happening in the next few days or weeks to celebrate this event?
I think we kind of do like once a semester, like team, like we go to eat as a team at a team dinner, and apart from that, like, I don't know, maybe someone wants to buy a new phone, maybe I will buy a new phone if that's or something, but I don't know if anyone has some concrete plans. Maybe someone will go for like cheap like vacation, maybe. I'm not sure.
Sounds like a pretty fun way to spend that prize pool. And so finally, what are the plans both for the team in general? You were talking to us in the break and said that Gentleman Hero at least likely isn't going to be returning for the team, and also for you individually. Where else can we see you playing in any leagues or anything like that?
Well, like we'll play the German final like in September for sure as a team, obviously, and we qualified there as well. And after that, not quite sure. Maybe we will play one more semester as a team in the winter semester, but not sure if like we will play as the same constellation will play the summer semester. So if we will return as a team like that to the UEM maybe next year, not sure. Especially since I don't know if like in Uman or something competes, the German league has some pretty strong teams, so qualifying for UEM in the first place is quite a challenge. Yeah, we need to see how things work out.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Is there any final words you'd like to say to any fans who've been supporting you, the rest of your team? Any final thoughts?
I mean, shout out to all the fans that support us today, especially like there was a watch party from kids. Shout out to you guys. And yeah, shout out. And shout out to all the crew that produced this event, organized it. Always nice to play it. Like, it's really fun that this is even there's even the possibility to play it in the first place. So, and shout out to you casters, great casts. I always enjoy like watching them afterwards. Yeah, that's it for me, I guess.
Thank you so much for joining us, Striker. Go celebrate with your team. We're going to jump back over to the 2cam and close this one out. Thank you very much.
Yeah, have a nice weekend, I guess.
Alrighty, what a day that was. Pretty quick. We could have been going for another couple of hours, but this tournament is long. It starts very early on in the year and runs through for multiple months. So many stages for these teams to compete in, but we have finally got to the end, and what a tournament it has been. It's been just so fun to watch.
Absolutely, it's been fantastic to be a part of. I mean, all the way from the beginning, right? Watching teams in their national leagues, us in the UK, everyone else from around the world, and then having to go through playoffs, having to go through round robin, all these different stages have been amazing to be a part of, and to finally see Kit picking up has been fantastic.
Let's have a quick look at the bracket that we've got right here. Now that it's all been completed, all of these stories have been written for these teams. We can have a look at what happened to get all the way to this point. You can see Kit SC White then beat Poland, they beat Ukraine, they beat Croatia, they beat Croatia. It's been a pretty easy road for them overall. Like they said, Dr. Boomen Academy back in Germany was likely their hardest matchup, and I think that was really borne out. Last year we saw Dr. Boomen Academy also win without dropping. I think maybe they dropped one game perhaps. I don't think it was quite the 100% clean run, but it was an incredible series out of them. So Germany, easily the best esports region that we've got for the universities in Europe. It'd be fascinating to see how we'd snack up internationally, and also if any of these other countries can really step up. I mean, does it feel like anybody is even close to Germany at this point?
No. Not really, but I think that's just sort of the case in general, right? I mean, even in terms of the professional level, you know, we've got the LEC, we've got all these different tournaments. Berlin is this hub of esports, and I think, like we said, the culture being built around is so incredible, but that in turn has harbored so much around the rest of Europe and is creating this incredible spread of just sort of esports being funneled into the mainstream and becoming more popular. And the fact that we have the chance to put on events like this is so fantastic. I mean, what has come from literally just university teams made up of friends starting at these lower level tournaments, moving up to get to the quality that we saw today, to get to the level of play that we saw today is just fantastic to be a part of. And Kit, looking forward, obviously, we talked about the fact that they might be losing Gentleman Hero. Even in that case, have shown to be such a strong team, taking out last year's champions. We'll see them again in September, as I said, in the German leagues. We'll see them again, hopefully, next year in the university leagues. I can only shower them with praise.
Absolutely. It has been an incredible day from them. Massive congratulations to Kit SC White. I mean, also, well done very much to FOI for getting to this point. But that is going to do it from us here. We want to say a massive shout out. I mean, Striker kind of beat me to it, but a massive strike out to everybody behind the scenes today making this happen. It is such a massive tournament to put on, and the organization is truly insane. So thank you so much to production. It's been a brilliant day, super smooth. Thank you very much to our analyst desk as well. It was some excellent breakdowns of those games, pointing out a ton of things that we missed in the heat of the moment. And also, thank you so much, Rysala, for joining me. It has been a pleasure.
It has been an absolute pleasure to be alongside you once again. Bloxer, I mean, look, hopefully I get to cast with you again. This was a fantastic experience. I hope to see you again in the coming season, in the winter, in the spring, wherever it may be. It's been a fantastic opportunity to be here yet again, to be part of such an amazing community, which is only getting bigger and bigger and only getting better year in, year out. So, I suppose my final words are thank you. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to the production team. Thank you to you, again, Black Bloxer, for being here. Thank you to the people watching. And thank you to all the teams for giving us something to cast over.
Absolutely.
I mean, catch me.
Yeah. Catch us again in the future. I would like to jump out with one final thing. If you're watching this and you are not already playing for your university team, join it. Whether or not it's League of Legends, go and join University Esports. It's the most fun that you are going to have. That's going to do it from us, though. We're going to jump into a couple of highlights so that you can see just what KSC White were able to do. Thank you all so much from all of us here at University Esports Masters. That's it for 2024.